welcome to the 425th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big, awesome supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I've been on a roll of off my mind episodes lately. I'm trying to do more. I don't know if they're more interesting or not. It's a little harder. In some ways it's easier. In some ways it's a little harder. But I'm trying to do more. So I did. What did I do? What video game would you want to be trapped in? What video game world would you want to be trapped in? I talked about the dangers of traveling to other dimensions, and there's different ways to take that. I think we need to address this multiple dimension stuff and dangers of that, because I'm talking more like it's dangerous if you go to a world where Batman's secret identity is. Everyone knows who it is. It's Bruce Wayne. Then you go back to the main universe and it's like, hey, Bruce Wayne. Yeah. And I've talked about comics before, but I did this big, long thing on Hobgoblin, and I don't know if it was just comic book overload. So I will go back and look at some classic comics again. I just need to figure out what comic, what story arc, what do we want to look at. So we need to figure that out. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. And that's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. So what is going to be on this week's episode? It might be a little shorter, so we're taking a little breather. And of course, I'm still scrambling to get things done so I can record and all that stuff. But it's going to be a little lighter this week. And we'll see about how next week's goes. Well, let's focus on this week. The movie feature is Black Phone 2. So I'm going to be perfectly honest. When I first heard that they're making a sequel, I'm like, why are we getting sequels? Like, do we really need a sequel? Because I felt like the first one, it told its story and then it ended. And I was like, what can you really do with this? Because the story's over and things are over. So they did a sequel, and it kind of veers off a little bit, but it does obviously continue the story. And in some ways, it evolves the story a bit. So we definitely have some interesting things to say about that. We have the season finale of Peacemaker Season 2. And who knows if it's a series finale. There's no plans for Season 3. Doesn't mean it's never going to happen. But yeah, we got, that's it for Peacemaker now. And it's a pretty big cliffhanger, so we'll talk more about that. And then we also have the, hopefully, season finale of Marvel Zombies. So with that, there is only 4 episodes, and that's it. And then we got comics and news. So, like I said, it might be a little lighter this week. With the news, Brad Wonderbaum, the head of Marvel TV, he says that, so this is at Comic-Con, New York Comic Con. I'm trying to remember whatever things came out. Because I missed some of that coverage since it was like over the weekend and after whatever. But he's, one of the things they said before, and this just kind of reiterates what he was saying, that they want to do like series every year, like have a Daredevil season every year. And I think they even mentioned like Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, X-Men 97. So he's like, yeah, we're already, thinking about seasons 4 and 5. And I think that's important. So like what I said before is, if you want to keep people subscribing to these streaming platforms, if you have something successful, something that works, you got to have a more consistent schedule, because take something like Stranger Things. It's like, it's just so sporadic. It's not like, we'll get a season every year, every 2 years. It's just whenever it happens. And I always say you shouldn't rush things, but at the same time, you got to keep working on it. You got to keep the machine going or whatever, and have a schedule. It's like, okay, we need writers. We need to get stories. So let's go. I'm not saying rush it and just to get something, but just don't dilly-dally over it. And yeah, so I'm down with that. That's cool. Michael Waldron, he's one of the writers for Avengers Doomsday. He's like, yeah, I know who would be a good Nova. I have someone in mind. So there's no plans for a Nova. I think originally there was going to be a Nova TV show, but then Disney just kind of like really pulled back in on the amount of stuff that they're doing, which is unfortunate, I think. But this Michael Waldron guy, because he's worked with him before, he thinks Glenn Powell would be a good Richard Rider. At first I'm like Glenn Powell. I was like, how old is he? Isn't he too old? He's 36. The thing is, and I was like, okay, well, how old is Nova now in the comics? And I did a search. I did like a Google whatever. It gave me the Google AI, which whatever it is, and I think it said that he would be like in his 30s now. So okay, if Glenn Powell's 36, Google AI or whatever Google search is saying he's in his 30s. I guess that makes sense. But what I'm looking at, sure, Nova's probably in his 30s now, but if you're going to introduce Nova into the MCU, are you going to just automatically start with like an older, like a Nova in his 30s? Or do you want to, because in the comics, he was like 17 or something like that. He's a teenager. So you're going to miss out on all that. And it's like, okay, maybe we don't need another kid superhero, kid trying to deal, we got Spider-Man, we got stuff like Invincible, there's other shows where you have a kid learning how to be a superhero. But I think there's something appealing about that. I think that there's that advantage of just trying to figure things out. But yeah, who knows? And it's just weird that we've had like the Nova Corps or whatever, and it's like different than maybe what we would expect. So we'll see. But I don't know about Glenn Powell. I'm not a Glenn Powell fan. Gabriel Luna, I am a Gabriel Luna fan. He was really nice. I got to talk to him once at New York Comic Con during Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he was just really cool, really down to earth, and he was just like happy to do the interviews. It was in a press room, and there's a bunch of people there. I was on the line, and he was doing the tables and the line, and he was excited, happy. So anytime I see him, he was in The Last of Us, and he's done other stuff. So I thought he did a good Robbie Reyes, but he says that he would like to do Ghost Rider again. He had he enjoyed it. He was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think it was season 4. And I think even at New York Comic Con, so Clark Gregg, Ming-Na Wen, and Chloe Bennett were there just like reflecting back on the show. And I think they mentioned how season 4 was one of their favorite seasons and that. So I don't know what the state of Ghost Rider is, where they would start. But, and yeah, Gabriel Luna, he's getting older too. So it's like, Robbie Reyes should be a teen or, early 20s at least. But I don't know, different things. What about Percy Jackson? So season 2, still, I have no idea. I think it's coming in December. But, we every once in a while we keep hearing stuff about season 3. So apparently Kate McKinnon has been cast as Aphrodite. Okay. So we'll see how that goes. But I am looking forward to season 2, but it's just, it feels like when is that happening? And it's just weird that we're getting all the season 3 stuff, even though, I don't even know if we've had a trailer for season 2. Maybe did I miss it? I don't know. It seems like sometimes I miss things. They're making Batman Nightfall animated movie. When I heard about this, and it's still, I don't think there's I don't know if there's a trailer. I don't think there's a trailer for this, but this might have been something announced at New York Comic Con. I'm just, I don't know how I feel about these anime. It's like, I get it. It makes sense. It's like, okay, we have the story ready, so all we have to do is adapt it in, movie format. But I just feel like, do we really need a Batman Nightfall movie? I mean, I guess it could be cool, but I'm sure there are people who haven't necessarily read the comic, but I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that. So I saw one headline. Oh, where was it at? Someone's like, Bane is officially coming or whatever. It's like, no, he's not. They made it sound like, or when I saw the headline, I was like, what? Bane's confirmed? It's like for what? For Brave and the Bold? For the Batman? Or what? And it's like, no, animated Batman Nightfall, which is like out of continuity. So it's not. I don't even know if it's DC Studios that's doing it. So I was like, okay, there we go. Oh, going back to Marvel, Daredevil Born Again. It has a release date now. So they talk. This is new, but not really new, because they were talking about like every March, we'll get another season of Daredevil. Season 2 appears. It's going to be happening on March 4th, 2026, and we know Jessica Jones is going to be in it. She was on stage with Charlie Cox at New York Comic Con, so she's super excited to return. So that's awesome. Then there's nothing confirmed yet, but I think there's rumors like, could we see the Defenders? Will we see Luke Cage? Will we see Danny Rand? I mean, if you got Jessica Jones and you got Frank Castle, and it just makes sense. Why wouldn't we have them also? It's like, why not let's just bring them in, not worry about continuity, this or that, and just like, okay, they exist. Maybe the Netflix shows were in a different multiverse whatever dimension, but why not? I mean, unless you're gonna specifically do something, because I know some people will be like, yeah, they should recast Iron Fist, whatever, and but yeah, just bring them back. I say. Spider-Man Brand New Day, there's a report, so nothing confirmed. They're saying that it's going to have a female villain. It's like, okay, you got a 50-50 chance of being correct if you just make that up. I don't know what sources, who says, and there's been talk like, oh, maybe Black Cat's going to be in it, and who else? I think some people are like White Rabbit. Like, why White Rabbit of all people? And is she really? I've seen several stories with White Rabbit. I know she's been in Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man comics. Has she always been like a Spider-Man villain? Maybe. I don't know if she's appeared in anything else. But not. I mean, when I think of like Spider-Man villains, White Rabbit's not one like first that comes to mind. So I don't know. Some bad news. Hollywood Reporter, and I've seen sometimes Hollywood Reporter has gotten things not quite right, but they're saying that it's likely Disney's going to stop making Tron movies, like movies for the theaters. Apparently, there's some disappointment over the box office. Now, I don't know if this necessarily means anything, because I've seen some people mention, and I don't know if they're experts or just people just randomly talking about Disney. Disney doesn't really need to rely on box office because they have Disney Plus. If you think about it, because I looked this up, and I think there was like 125 million subscribers. So if you think about that, 125 was that 125 million? I think that's what it is. 100. I don't want to look it up, but I think it was I should look it up. 125 million, and let's say what does Disney Plus even cost? I don't even know because I just pay yearly. Let's say $15 a month. If you're talking $15 a month, that's $1.8 billion a month that they're making. And yeah, they have other costs, other things that need to be considered. But if you're making $1.8 billion, so then once Tron Ares starts streaming, you can say, okay, yeah, we're getting money because of this, and maybe I don't know if they look at like, oh, this movie only has 5 streams, this movie has a million streams, how many people are watching it? So some people are saying that like, yeah, they don't really need to rely on the box office, and I don't know, I'm not sure if it's opened in China yet, and some people I read somewhere where they're like, yeah, China likes or they love Jared Leto, but that's the other question. Why did this movie not do well? And a lot of people are like, it's Jared Leto. He can't open a movie. You look at Morbius. You look at his Joker, and they're trying to put the blame on Jared Leto. I don't know, I think it could also be the Tron movies aren't people really like the Tron movies, but I don't feel like there's like a big strong hardcore audience. I think I mentioned last week when Tron Legacy came out, I'm almost positive, as much as I thought the original Tron was cool and the concepts were cool, the original movie, I did not see Tron Legacy in theaters. I'm like 99% positive I did not. I didn't see it until, a few years later. What does that say? That even me, who really liked the first one, or the ideas behind the first one, I didn't even see it. So I don't know if there's like a necessarily huge demand for Tron, but it seems like the people that do like it, they're pretty passionate about it. But you can't just have a small number of passionate people. That's not gonna it's not gonna pay the bills. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Oh, the other thing I do want to mention. I saw like a random video popped up on my TikTok feed where someone did an interview with Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, and I thought about it, like I was like, oh man, I should edit this. I could record this a little like 2-minute bit, try to edit it into the podcast because it's not quite live yet. It's going to be a little, but I was like, nah, it's too much work. I didn't really have time, and it's like I'm not going to go like sit in a closet to try to record, find a quiet spot or whatever. And because my question was, I found it very interesting, and I don't know if anyone else cares about this. I found it interesting that the Tron Ares soundtrack was by Nine Inch Nails and not by Trent Reznor and Atticus. So Trent Reznor and Atticus, they are basically Nine Inch Nails. They're in there. But whenever you look at the movie soundtracks they do, it's always Trent Reznor and Atticus. And so it's like, why the difference? And it makes total sense. So apparently some exec producer, someone I think was kind of friends with Trent Reznor, or lived down the street from him or something like that. And he goes up to Trent and he's like, hey, we're doing this Tron movie. Do you guys want to do the soundtrack? And Trent Reznor's like, yeah, that would be awesome. It's so cool. We like it. Whatever, we like to do that. And the guy's like, great. Just one thing. Could you do it as Nine Inch Nails and not as Trent and Atticus? And it is basically a marketing thing, because while Trent and Atticus have done a bunch of really great soundtracks, there was a time I remember, I'm like, okay, I know who Trent Reznor is. I was like, who's Atticus? Is it just some other songwriter dude that Trent's friends with that's outside the band? I didn't always know that he was like, no, they're both in the band. I just knew Trent Reznor's Nine Inch Nails, and then there's other people that play with them. I saw them. How many times did I see him? Twice. I saw him twice live. I don't know who anyone else is. That's just how it was. I mean, call me dumb or whatever. So yeah, it makes sense that you can say, yeah, the soundtrack's by Nine Inch Nails. And what Trent also said in this interview, that he also liked the idea because the soundtrack, he's like, it shouldn't be any like orchestral, anything like that. It should be all like synths and even like some lyrics and stuff like that. So he felt it really made sense to be more of a Nine Inch Nails thing than what they do otherwise. So that makes perfect sense. And I'm glad I just happened to open up the TikTok app at that moment, and this video just happened to pop up in my feed, because I was like, why did they do that? So now you know, if you didn't already know that. Alien Romulus, apparently there's no directors. They've been talking about, because original directors, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to do it because I did it. I'm got other things I want to do or whatever. Then apparently this Damien Rugna, I think it was, he was attached to it, but he just said on, I think it was like on a podcast or something, an interview or something like that. He's like, no, it's like, I'm not directing the sequel. So he denied that he's involved with it. So who is? No idea. And I also have to say, I have no idea what a sequel would be about. I mean, it's just obviously going to continue the story. I didn't even know there was a possibility that there's talk of doing one. I just thought like, oh, here we get an alien movie. Okay, we see these. And because I feel like we just jump around all the time. So I never know when they take place. It's like, okay, now we saw this moment in history. Where are we going next? Are we going in the past now, or who knows what? What about Wicked for Good? John M. Chu, I don't think we know. So now I feel like I should pause and look this up. But apparently, the Cowardly Lion, I think is like this big mystery of who's voicing the Cowardly Lion. Maybe it's been released, or maybe I missed it, or maybe before this goes this gets published, and after I record this, it's been out there. But he kind of teased that it's like someone, it's kind of shocking maybe, because they had someone in mind, and I guess when he approached them, you're like, hey, do you want to do this? It's not a lot of lines. Do you think you could fit it in? And then the quote was like, why to fudge not? Let's fudge and go, or something like that. So who's it going to be? Like Hugh Jackman? Because I feel like that's the let's F and go. I feel like that was a Deadpool and Wolverine thing. I don't know who it would be. I mean, because if you're talking about Cowardly Lion, you don't need like a James Earl Jones, like Lion King, something like that. Cowardly Lion should be Cowardly Lion. So I don't know. And then the other question is, since I don't really know much about Wicked, and whatever is going to be in the sequel, is a Cowardly Lion going to be singing? So would there be any singing? If so, then maybe it would be maybe it would be Hugh Jackman. So I don't know. I did have a student say, hey, do you know there's this movie called Howard the Duck here? I was like, yeah, I saw it. They're like, yeah, it wasn't that good. I was like, no, it wasn't. It was, yeah. I thought that was kind of funny. Okay, I saw this. I'm like, what the heck is this? There's a Boys spinoff. The Boys present Diabolical, and this apparently is canceled. But then it was like, what's his name? I forgot who the showrunner is. He said that Amazon kind of quietly canceled it after the first season. I'm like, what was the first season? I never saw it. So then I looked it up. Oh, it was an animated show, and I vaguely remember. I think it was like 2022. I never watched it, and I forget why. It might have been because they dropped all episodes at once or something like that. But apparently that's not happening. So if you watch it, it was 8 episodes. So if you watch The Boys Present Diabolical, we're not getting any more. James Gunn was talking about Supergirl. He describes it as a space adventure. And he says it's kind of like in the vein of Guardians of the Galaxy. And I was like, oh. So that means we're going to get a bunch of jokes, a bunch of F-bombs. Well, maybe not. Guardians of the Galaxy doesn't, but because Peacemaker does. And I just feel like, I don't know. What is this saying? Am I just getting like grumpy old man? But it's like, I enjoy the humor in the Marvel stuff, but I feel like, more of like a Peacemaker thing, that there's just like too much humor. It's like, and it's like, is this like a comic book show, or is this a sitcom, or is this a both? Because it's like everyone's a stand-up comic, everyone has something funny to say. I don't know. And I try to be funny when I have conversations with people, but there's a lot of times I'm talking to people where there's no attempt at telling a joke, but it's like Peacemaker, like everyone's telling jokes. I don't know. And the other thing, this Woman of Tomorrow or whatever, I wasn't a big fan of that miniseries. So we'll see. I'm going to try to be optimistic about it, but I don't know. Mia Goth. So there was one article I see. It's like, why? I don't know who's directing that Star Wars Starfighter. They're like, why whatever director chose or cast Mia Goth in it? Isn't because what's her other name? Anola? What's her name? Amara? That she didn't want to do it because she wanted more money. But anyways, I like Mia Goth. I think she's amazing. All those X movies, was it A24, right? Yeah. So she said that she's still attached to Blade. So her contract hasn't run out yet, or hasn't expired. I don't know how long it's going to last. But she said something like she's glad that they're taking their time to get it right, and that's the thing. If you're attached to a movie, and then all of a sudden it's going to be like a garbage script, or they're like, oh, we got to make this movie, whatever, tax write-off, or we could do this or that. And then you're contracted to be in this movie that ends up having like a garbage script because you already agreed to do it. It's like, no one wants that. If you're going to be in a movie, you want it to be something cool, something that you're proud to say, yes, I was in this. Not like, yeah, I was in that, whatever, I got a nice paycheck, but it's really bad. So it's just interesting that she's still attached, and I have no idea how long the contract would be, because after a while, and because the thing is, like, if she's committed to it, then what if they're all of a sudden they're like, hey, we got something going, we're going to start production November 5th, And she's like, dude, I can't do that. I'm doing this Star Wars movie. So, they're still, once they figure stuff out, they have to make sure it works for everyone else's schedule, because you can't expect them to drop everything, I'm assuming, because even if you have a contract, but there has to be some give with that, since, things got held up. And then the last bit of news is apparently they're going to do a live action The Jetsons. My question is, so I'm assuming if they're doing live action The Jetsons, it's probably going to be a movie, and apparently they're looking at Jim Carrey, I'm assuming, to play George Jetson. They're like Jim Carrey to be the lead or whatever, to lead the movie. I don't know. I don't know. I really like the Jetsons, so that's why I'm at a loss of words. I really like the Jetsons. I used to really like Jim Carrey, but after a while, it just got to be too much. It was too over the top. Because when Ace Ventura came out, or The Mask, or maybe even Dumb and Dumber, I don't think I ever really liked that. It was just too much. But I feel like it's like in seeing Jim Carrey in like talk shows and everything, and he was always doing the same thing and always doing like the rubber face and everything. So it's when I think of Jim Carrey being George Jetson, I'm sure he would be great. He would be awesome. But and then it's like, well, if you don't want Jim Carrey to do, who do you want? I don't know. I'm not a casting director, and I don't know every single person in Hollywood. I just think of what I think of, like what Jim Carrey does with like the kind of physical humor or whatever. That's not what I would expect George Jetson. I don't know. I hope they do a good job on it, because I really like the Jetsons, and I would love to see it to be successful. So I'll give them the benefit of doubt. I'm going to hope that whoever, let's see, I think, did I write Colin Trevorrow? So I think he's going to be directing it. So I'm going to assume, like, hey, you're going to do a live action to Jetsons. You better actually like the Jetsons. You should have some reason that you want to do it. So I would hope that they're going to do what's best for it. And hopefully, I'll do what's best for this show with the content. But that is I don't know, why do I do that? That is the news for the week. With comic books at Mad Cave, we had Racer X #2. Who wrote Racer X? I think it was Mark Russell. So it's cool. So I'm not going to go into it again, because I feel like I do it all the time. I love Speed Racer. So the fact that we have a Speed Racer comic and a Racer X comic is really cool. I am concerned how long they can maintain it and just coming up with different stories, because we're already seeing like a little overlap between the two, and there should be there should be some ties if you're telling the same story, because if it's at the same period. But the main thing with this issue with Racer X, it's more of he's a racer, he's doing these races, but there's also like the deadly part of it. And we're not necessarily saying like, is he involved with any sort of spy or organization or anything like that, but it's just that like there's this big race coming up, and he's talking about like the mob guys or someone putting like a $10 million bet on one of the racers, and of course they're going to go to any means try to disqualify or cause problems for the other racers in that, and just you see as the race is going on, like there's snipers and just all sort of it's crazy. And then there's a thing, you're like, well, what about Speed and the fact that Pop's had a heart attack and needs a transplant and stuff like that. So I think they're just doing a really good job with that and just tying the whole thing. And I hope they do go into like is he really a spy or anything like that? Just to spice up the character a little more. Then he's not just a racer. There's a little more going on. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to go in there, and that's one of the things that I loved about the series. And speaking of like the old series, because as I've also gone on and on about, I love Gotchaman. I grew up with Battle of the Planets, and then later discovered, we had Gotchaman, and then there was, I think, Ace Goodhart and something, which I never really watched that one. I was like so confused that there's like different versions of the same cartoon. They were just like redubbed. I was like, how can they do that? So we have Gotchaman number 13, and what's cool about this is it's a lot about, like, there's this giant mech, Galactor. They love those mechs. Like, how do they have the resources to keep making them and everything? But there's this big, huge one attacking. So and there's like other things that they need to, different aspects. They're kind of spread out trying to stop these other things, and that at the same time, there was a group, I think it was like the Science Ninja team. There's like kind of like the secondary team. A lot of them defective. They left, and they're tired or whatever. And they actually went to Galactor. It's like, wait, what? So they're talking about doing that, and kind of going under through some training. And there's at one point, what's his name? Birdcast. That just does not sound right. Like that's his name, because I'm thinking of him as Zoltan. And at one point he's like, okay, give them the enhancements, whatever means necessary. Don't listen to them. Like, they're putting like cybernetics and stuff, just doing all this stuff to him. And he also puts in like ways to control them and stuff like that. So it's just you're signed up for some bad stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting. I'm again so happy that we have these comics, because it's just so much fun. At Image, there wasn't a whole lot. I didn't really read a lot. There was I Hate Fairyland 45. I need to get caught up on that. Rogue Sun 30. I feel like Rogue Sun should be past 30. I feel like it's been so much longer since I've read Rogue Sun, or maybe I'm getting confused with Radiant Black. So there's that. World Tree 33 trade paperback 3 came out. So I didn't read the last couple issues, I think, but that's a good series to read. Then there's G.I. Joe number 12. So this was a cool episode where this one sniper has been kidnapped, and they're trying to get them to do something, and she's like, nope, I'm not going to do it. And then can she be freed or rescued or whatever? And so it's just cool. G.I. Joe action, stuff. I was gonna say fun times, not really fun for them, but it's cool to see. So I dig that. At Marvel kind of had a light week. They had Amazing Spider-Man 14. So what's I find interesting about this, and I don't know if is it bi-monthly? It kind of feels like it. But what's cool about this is we're having like two different Spider-Man stories happening like every other issue. That might be a little annoying if you're reading it, but I'm kind of enjoying the both. So when Spider-Man, I keep forgetting the guy's name. Was it Hellgate? So Hellgate was this crazy powerful dude. I don't even know what his deal is, but Spider-Man was just kind of defeated by him. He's just trying to stop him and then it was also a matter of Hellgate, like he realized Spider-Man cares about innocent people, so then he's putting them in danger, and Spider-Man's kind of sacrificing himself, and so but the way they describe it, and I feel like I missed something, that he got like punched into another dimension, into space or something, because then we saw he was like on this spaceship with this alien dude, and the alien dude is trying to help Spider-Man become stronger, because he's like, okay, I was defeated, I need to be better. So with that, I think it's going to be interesting to see when Spider-Man returns, is he going to have more tricks up his sleeve? Because I'm down for that. Like, why not? Let's do that. And we saw, and Spider-Man kind of broke off his agreement with this alien dude because he discovered he's got like all these test subjects, he's doing all these experiments on different alien species. He's like, no, that's not cool. Then I think one of them was Rocket Raccoon, who's doesn't like that stuff either. And we saw like Spider-Man, Rocket Raccoon, and some of the others like that he helped liberate. They're going on this like space mission. So we got Spider-Man in space basically. And then what we have on Earth, we have someone else posing as Spider-Man, and it's not. I mean, it's been a few issues. I don't know if I should spoil that or not, but you see it on a cover. It's kind of slightly different cover. Like the eyes are a little red, web shooters on the outside and stuff like that. So it's like, who could this be? And then I mean, I feel like I should just spoil it. It's Norman Osborn. Norman Osborn's trying to, like, oh, I'm still trying to make things up to Peter. He's missing. I'm gonna like fill in for him. Because like the last issue, like the other Spider, like Miles and Gwen and Spider Boy and Silk, and they're like they confront him. They're like, okay, who are you? What are you doing? You're not Spider-Man. We can tell. And he like admitted and it was kind of interesting when I think he saw Gwen, right? I'm not just making up false memories, but he's just like, yeah, I'm trying, and they're like, well, you're not doing it. We got it covered. We don't need you. It's like, okay, Miles, whatever. You can't even have a good solo series, and you're trying to tell other people what to do. So we have that. Will Norman give up being Spider-Man, or we'll see. But there's also Ben Reilly. Then he's kind of filling in for Peter Parker, doing Peter Parker stuff. And I don't know if Peter necessarily asked him to do that, but you can see that he's really enjoying working at Rand Industries, like doing a bunch of science stuff. So, and I feel like he's trying to prove a point that he can do like stuff is good or better than Peter. I just don't like that he's still like kind of semi-evil Ben Reilly chasm, and with Janine Eve's Hollow. I don't know, but I'm finding these books like interesting. Then we have Captain America #4, the Chip Zdarsky. So this is like sort of in the past, like right after Captain America was thawed out of the ice, and then he doesn't know what to do, so he joins the army or whatever. He's like, I'm reporting back for duty, and he's on this mission. There's this other dude that kind of became a Captain America. He this guy, patriot dude, wants to. He went through a lot of training and enhancements or whatever because he wants to be Captain America. But there's a little, it might not be the best choice. There's a little controversy, I think, with the way he handles things, but they go on a mission to Latveria. So Steve Rogers meets Doctor Doom, and so there's some interesting things there. And yeah, because there's like some, I think, U.S. citizens that were kidnapped or being held not kidnapped, but being held hostage, and they want to try to free them, and there's a lot of political craziness. There's also Fantastic Four Gargoyles. I'm trying to look at the cover now. I don't know if is that Fantastic Four X Gargoyles? I don't even remember what this is called now. So we had Fantastic Four and the Gargoyles, the Disney's Gargoyles from the animated show. And here's my secret. I never really watched Gargoyles because whenever it was on, again, it's kind of like similar to Transformers. I didn't watch it, and I didn't really know anything about it. What I do know is that a lot of people really love the show, and so Greg Weisman was involved with that. I don't know if he was a writer, showrunner, I don't know, but he's got a lot to do with it. So he wrote this comic, so that's cool. And basically, what's nice about this, and they even comment about it, I don't know if it's Ben or Johnny, when they meet up, they don't just like automatically start fighting each other, because that's usually what happens so many times, where random hero meets other random hero, and then they have to fight over some misunderstanding, and then they're like, oh wait, we want the same thing, let's team up, high five. So yeah, we got some interesting things here, but I think this is just like a one shot. I'm pretty sure that we're not necessarily gonna get anything more. And I don't think we necessarily need anything more. So, but maybe we'll see something. There's Godzilla Destroys Marvel Universe #4, Incredible Hulk #30. So I'm not reading those. Then we got some more of these X-Men books, and I'm just not really enjoying any of these. There's Iron and Frost. This was okay. As I'm saying, I didn't enjoy them. This was by Kevin Scott. The art was by Avari Coleman. So here we see like what happened to Emma Frost, and it wasn't necessarily like the most pleasant thing, as Doug Ramsey revelation as he starts unleashing his thing, because this virus was put out, it affected some mutants, not others, and then there's like all this bad stuff, and Doug can control people with just words, and it's just I do not care about this event, this story. I just have zero interest in this. And where we're at, we're like X years later, we're 10 years in the future, and we're just seeing how horrific the world is. Everything sucks and everything, whatever. And that's what we get here. So we get a little catch up, like what happened in between the present and this future, and things don't go too well for Emma. She's kind of in survival mode, but yeah. So I don't know about that. We had One World Under Doom, number 8. This event feels like it's going forever. I was like, is this the last issue? It is not the last issue. And maybe the next issue is the last one. But we have more. I'm so tired, and I just find this whole Emperor Doom thing annoying. And what's annoying about it is like Doom's attitude. He thinks he's the best. He thinks he's so great. He's like, oh, I can defeat everyone and all this stuff. But it's kind of like the only reason he can do this is because he tricked Doctor Strange into getting the Sorcerer Supreme mantle. And then he's kind of like he's got like a cheat code. He's using all this magic stuff. And yeah, he knew a lot to begin with. But how come Doctor Doom never won before? Because he didn't have all this connection, all this power. And so now that he does, it's like suddenly he's like the best at everything. It's like, no, it's just because you're using these tricks, whatever, that you got, access to. It doesn't mean that you're great. Or maybe it's like, well, he had the foresight, or he had the ability to finagle, to make things work in his favor. But it's just like, whatever. And there's like he was using like a spell or whatever, that if he was defeated, he could go back in time to right before that. It's like, oh, they're gonna, someone's gonna bend over behind me, and then Reed Richards is gonna push me, and I'm gonna fall back. So then he can go back in time. You're like, okay, Johnny Storm's gonna be kneeling behind me, so I'm gonna turn around and kick him instead of letting Reed push me and making me fall back. So it's like he's just cheating. He's rewound time so many times. He gets defeated, and then he's like, oh, they did this. Okay, zoop. Now I know to prepare for that. And the other thing is, I feel like that's so reckless with messing with the time stream. And then the other thing is the fact that he's using all this magic, and they keep saying how, there's a cost. Every time you use magic, there's a price. So like, what is he paying? He's using up all this magic, because where does all this magic come from? Is there like a magic well, like a source? Or can you just keep creating, over and over again, all this magical energies? It's got to come from somewhere. There's got to be some trade-off. But he's just using it to be stupid. And Valeria, she's trying to get, his attention, because Dr. Doom's her godfather, and he has a soft spot for her. So, like, if she can talk to him, will he listen to her, or is he going to, try to brush her off? Then we had Punisher number 2. So this is like the regular Punisher book, and I don't know how I feel about this. So somehow Kingpin has figured out a way to control Punisher, whether it's through some like implants or programming or something like that. And it's just weird because of that. Kingpin here feels a little different than we just see Kingpin in Daredevil, because Kingpin kind of saw like the face of God, or found a light or whatever, and he just became super religious and stuff like that. But now here, it's almost like he's back to evil, cruddy Wilson Fisk Kingpin, but he's also trying to use the Punisher, Frank Castle, to do good things. He's using him as a weapon, as a tank or whatever, but he's going to take out there's a
container. That's what I'm looking for. There's a truck carrying a container with a bunch of people, and they're basically doing human trafficking. So you need to stop them. Blah blah blah. But yeah, I don't like the whole thing that he's controlling Punisher. So, he's got a computer open, and that just seems weird and lame. I don't know. Then there's Rogue Storm. This is another book. I think I got like 4 or 5 pages into it, and I'm just like, yeah. I tried. I think I couldn't get very far. Sinister Six. Oh, this was even less. I think I got like 4 pages, and I'm just like, I just don't care. There's like characters I don't know, characters I don't care, and we got, this is written by Gail Simone, so we got like the new characters that she's created, which I can appreciate that, and I'm glad that she created these kids, whatever characters, so she gets to tell what's going to happen to them, type of thing. But yeah, I think maybe it's just I cannot stand Mr. Sinister. I can't recall there being like anything cool or exciting about him. So, and then like you see, like, wait, why is Venom on the cover? Like, what's going on here? So I don't know. I did not really care for that. There was Star Wars Legacy of Vader #9. I feel like I need to go back and read these, because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is more, what is it, Kylo Ren, backstory. But apparently there's, if we're at issue 9, there's got to be more happening here. So I kind of want to see what's going to happen here. And then there is Unbreakable X-Men, #1. And who wrote this? This is by, this one is Gail Simone. I got that wrong. So in this book, we see the X-Men kids that she created here. And when I saw that cover, I was like, oh, Cyclops, okay, cool. No, that's not Cyclops, that's Gambit. And yeah. But what I thought was interesting is on the cover you see there's a couple of, like, tombstones, and one says Rogue, but it's like, wait, we just had Rogue and Rogue Storm, and now here she's dead? It's like, what? And this is the thing that drives me nuts, because it's like, okay, you gotta get this, get on the same page. So I don't know. At DC Comics, there was Absolute Flash #8. So I'm not reading that. Let me know if I should be reading it. Should I go back and read it? But yeah, I lost interest. Wonder Woman #26. More of this Mouse King dude. Blah. And then, so basically what's going on here is Wonder Woman is fighting him, and somehow he's putting up like a major fight. She's like, you should be able to do that. So it's just like, whatever. It's like, yeah, I want to read a comic about a guy hitting. Is it wrong for me to say I don't want to see a comic about a guy hitting a woman? Is that being sexist? Because I don't know. I don't want to see it. And then the fact that she went to this island with her baby, it's like, where's the baby? And yeah. Nightwing #131. This is like comics, and what can Tony nitpick about with every book? I did like Racer X and Gotcha. and Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man. With Nightwing, there's more of Nightwing and this kid with like the Superman powers, basic Kryptonian powers, and there's something doesn't go too well. So Nightwing is basically, all right, this kid, I think he's like an 11-year-old. He's got these powers, and he's using like so he's like, I think he's calling himself Nightwing Prime or whatever. That's how they refer to him. It's like, how's he Nightwing Prime when wouldn't Dick Grayson be Nightwing Prime? But he goes, he's out there like on patrol, and Nightwing's like trying to help him to hopefully he doesn't get anyone killed or. But then things don't go too well. Let's just say that. And I feel like I keep saying that, but you have to have that because you don't want a comic where everything is working out because that would get boring. World's Finest, Batman Superman World's Finest. This was Robin Supergirl team up. And I will admit that this was like one of the last comics I was reading because normally I like the dynamic that's been between them two, where it's like they like each other but they don't like each other, and so they kind of go on this mission together, and then they get stuck in sticky situation, but can they work together, and do they like each other, do they not like each other, and so I kind of enjoyed that, even though I kind of started skimming because of time, but so you should check that out. Then there was Titans number 28. I almost read this, but again, it was a matter of time. The only reason I would read this is because this is a KO tie-in, which I need to go back. I need to reread that first issue because I'm not on board with that. There's Superman Unlimited, number 6. More of the Superman trying to stop this nation from using kryptonite crystals and that. But the thing that bothers me. Okay, so we, like in this town or this country or whatever, they're using. They have so much kryptonite, and because they're like messing around and everything, there's just like crystals everywhere, and one in particular, like this one crystal, it has like the potential to make like a Fortress of Solitude type of thing, and the fact that there could be like all this Kryptonian information in the crystal, so it's like just everyone shouldn't be using it. So Superman is trying to stop things, but of course, the leader of the country, who seems like has good intentions, but he really doesn't, they kind of start bumping heads.
I don't know. I mean, there's just something that's off about this. And like, Superman's got this new ability where he gets like kryptonite overload and he can turn gold, and he kind of has like a shield around his body. But then after that, then he's like depleted of energy, needs like rest. And I don't know about that. There's Justice League Red number 3. I didn't read number 2, so I don't know. I mean, I was curious, but I missed number 2. Or I didn't get to it. Crypto I think this is number 5, and he finally meets up with Clark. So that's all I'll say. Where is he from? Is he from Krypton? What's happening here? So you have to read and find out. Then there's Catwoman number 80. And again, I think that's awesome when these books are allowed to reach these high numbers. So we'll see. Is it going to reach like 100 and then they'll reboot it? Well, that's 20 months from now. Can they wait that long? I don't know. But that is it. That's all the comics that I read and didn't read for the week. All right, now it is time for the season finale of Peacemaker. So this is it. There's no more. And I don't know what it exactly means. I think I talked about this last week, where the reports are saying that there are no plans for season 3 currently. That doesn't mean that there won't be a season 3, but if there are no plans for it, that means possibly James Gunn hasn't started writing because he's busy. He's got another job, a full-time, he's busy shaping the DCU or whatever else, that involves. He hasn't written it, so they haven't filmed anything, and then the edit. So it's going to be a while. Even if they're like, there's going to be a season 3, it's going to take some time. We'll talk more about this at the end. What the way it ends, because it does end on a bit of a huge cliffhanger, massive cliffhanger, and it's a little annoying to do that without any plans for a season 3, where sometimes. I feel like most shows, like a lot of times, if you're going to do that, you're hoping for another season. But I don't know if necessarily James Gunn's really. He knows that he's not going to be able to do one right away because he's going to be directing another Superman movie, whatever. I don't even know what they're calling that now. I don't remember. It's not a sequel, but it's whatever Superman and I don't even know. Let's just talk about this episode 208. This was supposed to be like a 50 or maybe it was a 57-minute. Yeah, because I think it was over an hour. And I remember James Gunn comment about that. But then I was like, wait a minute, there's like over 10 minutes of behind the scenes, and there's a lot of stuff that we already heard that, yeah. So I think was it 50? Was it? I don't even remember. It starts out a month ago. So I had Big Belly Burger, which was, it's always cool to see, actual comic book landmarks in live action, whatever they do. So Chris, Peacemaker, and Harcourt, they're sitting in the booth, and she's like, well, ads could have figured out a way around it other than just outing Waller on TV. And Chris like, she was just trying to help. And she's kind of drawing on a table with water from her straw. And he's like, oh, what are you doing? And she says his face. He's like, it's just a box with 2 dots. And she's like, yeah, your head's like that. It's kind of insulting, whatever, but she's joking. This song comes on, and then he's like, oh, do you know this song, whatever? And this is the thing that gets me about this. It's like almost like, oh, can we find cool, obscure music that you only know it if you're cool? Is I feel like that's the message a lot of times, but whatever. So then she's like, you think I know this song, Chris? And he's like, oh, sorry, I forgot you were too busy assembling automatic weapons behind your back while normal people were listening to the radio. And he's like, well, in 1999, the song Someone Special came out from the Swedish band Hardcore Superstar, revolutionized new sleaze rock movement. So I'm thinking about this, 1999, I will 100% admit I have never heard of a Hardcore Superstar. And I feel like, I mean, I'm not necessarily like a music expert or connoisseur, but I feel like I've had my pulse on there. I may not appreciate everything or like everything, but I feel like I've been always aware. But maybe I guess I'm just not listening to sleaze rock, so maybe that's why I'd never heard of them. But they're a legit band. So she's like, new sleaze rock? He's like, yeah, it's what Mozart would be playing if he was still alive today. Like, if he was like hundreds of years old, he'd be playing that? Is that what you're saying? And she's like, sure. So he starts singing very loudly and starts to stand, and she covers her ears. She's getting embarrassed. She's kind of sinking down in her booth. Everyone's like looking at him. He's singing like off key. It's like everything like that. So then he's like, why are you so embarrassed about being someone special? And because that's like the song. And she's like, I am no one special. Okay, believe me. He's like, oh, I think you are. And she's like, shut up, Chris. And he's like, for real? And she's like, I don't want to be anyone special, okay? I just want my job back. And ads fudge that up. And you're definitely special because, you have a box head. And then waitress comes with like a tray of shots, like 6 shots for each of them. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't want to keep bothering Maeve. That's the waitress. And she laughs. So basically he's trying to get her drunk. It's like, do you really need 6 shots at once? And how much have they been drinking before? So there's a montage of them drinking, everything, having a good time, and drinking with Maeve was even drinking shots and stuff like that. So they walk out the front door. And this is another part that kind of bothers me. They're practically side by side, and then some random dude looks back at her and he's like, GD, hey baby, poop. And she gets offended, and she's like, what was that, Yosemite Sam? And he's like, all right, geez, I was just giving you a compliment. Which, again, it's making a random comment, like a lewd comment, that like, oh, you look hot, or that's not a compliment to tell someone that you're leering at them. There's a you gotta have a certain amount of finesse, and you just don't do it because you don't know, and it's not appropriate to, it's not a compliment. Even if you tell someone like, oh, you're hot, it can be a little creepy, even if you have good intentions, whatever. And then she like shoves him in the chest. And she's like, hey, fudge you fudging freckly fudge. And here we go again. It's like, did James Gunn, did he have a bet? Like, okay, you got to give me $1 every time someone says the F word. Because she's, hey, fudge you fudging freckly fudge. It's like, you have no other words in your vocabulary. And everyone in this show it's like they have no other words. And he's like, hey, my mama taught me to be proud of my freckles, okay, girl? And she's like, yeah, well, your mother's a fudging, and it rhymes with store, what she says. And she shoves him again. And he's like, what the fuck did you just say? And then Chris steps in. He's like, hey, yo, it's cool. All right. He looks at Hardcore. It's cool. And then he like looks at the random dude. He's like, all right. And the guy's like, because Chris, even though this guy was like a big kind of burly guy, John Cena's bigger. So he's like, yeah, we're cool. Look, I'm sorry, bro. But I guess he somehow missed the fact that they were side by side when he makes this comment. You don't make a comment to random women, and two, you're gonna make like a lewd comment when they're with their potential partner, whatever, boyfriend, husband. And he's like, I didn't mean anything by it. And Chris just cuts him off. He's like, good, just keep your mouth shut and get inside, okay, bro? He's like, yeah, yes, sir. He's like, have a wonderful night. And then she's got words for Chris. And she's like, what, you think you're fudging protecting me? He's like, no. He's like, I'm protecting him. He's like, come on, we're having a good night, right? He's like, look at the moon, look at the stars. You're gonna give all this poop up to go beat some fudging loser whose mom, might I add, taught him to be proud of his freckles? And she kind of chuckles. He's like, that was strange. And she's like, yeah, okay. So later they're walking like by the water, whatever, and like on the pier. And she says that, he could be nicer to Adrian because this whole world revolves around, Chris. And he's like, yeah, that's weird. And she's like, yeah, it's weird. But look, I'm probably only saying this because I'm buzzed, but it's also a little sweet. Is he in love with you? And Chris is like, no, his older brother just really wasn't good to him, He's just trying to fit in. Then she groans. She says, she's like, oh, she hates admitting that he was right. She's glad that they came. She says she can't believe that she's never been down here. And he's like, oh, it's the best place in Evergreen. Then he's like, oh, poop. And she's like, what? He's like, oh my God. And she's like, what? He's like, Hardcore, we have to go. And she's like, come on, you're kidding me, right? He's like, no, please. She's like, they're the most underrated ever. And she's like, no. He's like, just for a second, just for a few songs. And she's like, no. He's like, come on. So there's a rock cruise featuring Nelson, which is why the episode is probably called Full Nelson. So then it cuts to the present. Chris is sitting in a prison cell. Guard or officer comes in with a clipboard. He's like, here's a list of people who want to visit. He's like, are you good with everyone? And the list is Amelia, Hardcore, Leota, Adebayo, Adrian Chase, and John Economos. And he's like, no. He's like, I don't want to see anyone. And the guard's like, why? And Chris is like, the reason's important to you, Derwitz? And he's like, well, it's just unusual for prisoners to deny visitors, that's all. And he's like, maybe because I'm the angel of fudging death. And the guy's like, uh-huh. He's like, you're the angel of death, okay? Hey, we got the friggin' angel of death here. And then he like leaves. Then for some reason, Argus is investigating the doors. So they're like in the door room now, which is so stupid. It's like, okay, you got this portal thing, this dangerous, it's so dangerous to open portals. That's why Lex Luthor's locked up. Now you're messing around with his portals. It's a little stable, maybe, but you're still messing around. So Argus, they're checking out all the doors. Hardcore and others, they're wearing like hazmat suits or breather suits or whatever. So you hear like, door 28 locked. And someone else is like, there's like multiple teams. Door 4 locked. And then someone's like, supply rack with various weapons, photographing now. And someone comments to Hardcore that this is some crazy magical poop. What does Flag want them to find here? And someone else is like, no, he won't say. And then when the agents exit, they're like decontaminating and stuff like that. So Rick asks Happerson if everything's stable. And he says it seems to be, this tech is so far beyond anything that they know terrestrial. And Flag's like, we're going to find what we need in there. He's like, I really believe it. He's like, everything we talked about is going to come to fruition. So it's like, what is Rick talking about? And he's talking about stuff with Happerson, who's basically, he was in prison. And to Mike, he's like, what's your status, Economos? And Economos he's like, there is no fudging status. Even this close, as soon as they walk through that doorway, it's like voice contact's gone and their GPS trackers pop out of range. It seems kind of like fudging reckless, actually. And then Flag's like, your attitude's a little fudging reckless, which is so stupid. John covers the mic, and he says to Bordeaux, who's standing next to him, he's like, your boyfriend's a Richard head. And she's like, he's not my boyfriend. And then he covers up the mic again. He's not your boyfriend? So it seems like there's a lot of agents in the door room. So they're like tethered to each other, and they have their guns out. Judo Master is like in a hazmat suit. He tries the door. He yells, door 21 is locked. So then later, Fleury is talking to Hardcore about this stripper say when they went out to some club. There's a stripper who wasn't exactly a look or whatever. He's like, on a scale of 1 to 10. So I love Tim Meadows. He cracks me up. He's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, she's a cat emoji. It's like, what does that even mean? And this other agent, he called him Cupid or something like that. He's like, he didn't even care. He was on the edge of stage with like Pepe Le Pew eyes. And the guys, he's like in front of me, he's like, shut up with this. And he's like, they record this poop. And Flurry's like, that's fine. Blondie can enjoy it now, and whoever's listening can enjoy it later. And Hardcore's like, HR is going to love it. So he continues like, the stripper sees this because she is trained in the art of seeing easy money. And she goes on and stuff like that. Then the guy asks Hardcore, he's like, can you tell him the STFU about this? And she's like, well, stupidly, now I need to know where this is going. Flurry's like, he starts moaning, like something's going on. It's like, did he just, And then he's like, then he threw up all over her and the stage and the dollar bills. Hardcore's like, I changed my mind. It's like, I want to go back in time and not hear it. So then they reach door 22 and they check that. And Rick's like, fudge yes. He's like, and it's like, why is he getting excited? Because he I don't know. So the doors open. There's like this brick road. There's kind of like big candy lollipops in the ground. There's like mushroom candy, like pinkish, like grass, kind of clouds, like all over, like everything like that. Hardcore's like, okay, we're entering. And she's like, hold off on the other doors. Flurry's like looking at the readings. He's like, temperature is 49 degrees Fahrenheit, 79% humidity. Gravity is commensurate with Earth. And then the grass starts moving, like there's something going through the grass. He's like, WTF? And this little pink critter pops up. And then he bares his teeth and he leaps at the one guy, Cupid. And they all swarm, they knock him down. They start like kind of like carrying him away. And I think Flurry got carried away too, but they're tethered. So Hardcore yells, he's like at an agent, like the pole and stuff like that. And she uses the agent there is like, she uses a nickname that Flurry gave her, like I think it was the first episode of the season or whatever. So then one critter cuts the rope with like a broken piece of glass or something like that, and a few start like pushing the door shut. So agents rush the door, but then they're locked out now somehow. Hardcore gets up and starts like shooting, and when they get shot, they kind of burst into like colorful confetti. And then that agent Cupid, his face mask gets busted open, and they start chomping like on his face. Hardcore starts like pulling at them and whatever. It's like that. Flurry like helps. He got the other agent somehow they got the door open. And then they start kind of like grabbing and stomping on critters that just came in. And Cupid's face, it's pretty much gone. His face has been eating. It's like a skeleton. His hands like twitching. It's kind of disturbing. It was a little gross. And Flurry lets out a big fudge. So yeah, that was reckless. That was dangerous. An agent died because of stupid Rick Flag. So this agent comes out and talks to Bordeaux, tells her Klein's face got eaten by nightmare poop. He's like, what are you sending us into? And she looks up the booth where Rick is with others, and he just holds out both hands, like completely, he's like, oh, what do you want? Kind of like that. He doesn't even say anything. It's like, okay, you're supposed to be leading all this. This is like pure incompetence, and you're just standing up there. Then later, Economos says to Hardcore, he's like, well, I thought we were doing this to prevent some kind of metropolis rift, but now I'm scared we're actually going to fudge and create it. I mean, we are blindly going into these universes with technology and physics that are mind-boggling different than our own. And fudging Flag, he's running everything past his new BFF, Lex Luthor of all people. He's like, did you know that? And she's like, yeah. So he's like looking around, and he's like looking for something. They're in, I don't know whose apartment they are. They're not at Chris's place. Are they at his place? I don't know. They're somewhere. And so she's like, yeah, she knows. And John continues like, that creep Happerson, and then that McCoy chick, and even fudging Otis. And she's like, Otis seems all right. And John's like, I don't know. I mean, what do we even know? Do we even know what we're looking for? And she's like, well, they told us a million times, John, someplace safe to breathe with food and water supply, someplace uninhabited. He's like, yeah, I know that, but for what? She's like, I don't know, something that's worth it to the U.S. government, because it has to be costing them tens of millions of dollars. Flag's able to, a budget that big? And John's like, not without approval from the Secretary of Defense. And she's like, yeah, I don't know what it's for. Environmental reasons, I guess. Resources, new ground for overpopulation. And John gives her a look. And she's like, what? And John's like, when has anything we've ever done actually benefit for the good of the people? And she thinks about that, and she's like, yeah. And then John finds Eagly. He's been looking for him, and he's like in the corner of a closet. John says that he's been depressed since Peacemaker went to jail, and he keeps hiding. So Hardcore's like, Chris hasn't let you visit him, has he? And he's like, no, you? She like shakes her head. John's like, I'm afraid seeing his brother almost killed in front of him again, like fudged him up on an elemental level. And she's like, where the fudge you going now? And he's like, I'm gonna go get some lunch meat to try to lure Eagly out of there. And she's like, all that processed food can't be good for him, John. Then Adrian Moms knocks on his basement door asking if he's in there, and he yells for her. He's like, get out of my nuts. And he's like, I told you I need some privacy. And she's like, yes, dear, but your friend is here. He's like, my friend? It's Adebayo. He's like, what kind of fudging friend, Mom? And she's like, Lee is her name. He's like, Lee? He opens up the door. He looks out, sees who it is. He's like, Jesus, Mom, we call her Ads or Adebayo. Why can't you get the most simplest poop right? He's like so rude to her. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she's like, I'm sorry, Ads. And she's like, oh, it's okay. You can call me Lee. She's like, my wife calls me Lee. And Adrian's like, well, if I guess if you guys give each other cunnilingus, then you can call her Lee. And so Mom kind of leaves in shock, whatever. And Adrian complains. He's like, oh, great. Now I got the image stuck in my head. But he's using a vulgar way to describe, like, Adebayo and his mom, whatever. So she's like, Adrian, you're really mean to your mom, dude. He's like, good. And she's like, you okay? He's like, yeah, just getting really far in Princess Peach. He's like, or Princess Peach Showtime or something like that. He's like, it's not easy just because it's about a girl. So he's playing like some game. I don't know if it's on his phone or it's like something handheld. And she's like, yeah, well, could you put it down for a second so we can talk? He's like, okay, fine. She's like, we got to help Chris. He's fudging broken. And he's like, Peacemaker doesn't break Ads. They're like, this is all part of some larger plan. I'm sure. So don't say that, okay? She's like, okay, but we need to bail him out of prison. He's got a court date in 3 months, and he needs a lawyer. Adrian's like, he's already got a lawyer. His name is Jeff, and he smells like peppermint schnapps and baby powder, and he burps. She's like, Jeff is a public defender, and I think he has some private demons that he needs to be dealing with. She's like, Adrian, we need the money down here to hire a capable lawyer. He's like, this is blood money, Ads. This is blood money. It comes from drug dealers and gangsters and human traffickers. She's like, it was blood money, but now it's just money, and it's just sitting here. He's like, blood money will put a curse upon all our descendants. She's like, no, it won't. And he's like, look, if you want to help Peacemaker get out, you should do a prison break. She's like, we're not doing a prison break. And he's like, okay, well, then you threaten the judge's family. And she's like, what part of you thinks you're one of the good guys, Adrian? He's like, all parts of me. She's like, we're not doing threatening. And he's like, okay, so then it's back to the breakout. He's like, that's what I want to do anyways. And she's like, no, fudge. It's like, Adrian, I guess I'm really disappointed. And he's like, why? And he's like, I guess I'm just better friends with Chris than you, that's all. And he's like, what? He's like, no fudging way, that's crazy. And she's like, yeah, that's what I would have thought, but I'm willing to possibly take on a blood curse to help Chris, and you're just not. And he's like, oh, ha, 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 ha. He's like, that's hilarious. I'm tickled. He's like, I would totally take on a blood curse for him. I would just, rather kill the judge's family. And she's like, well, I've just overestimated the depth of your friendship, I guess. And it's like, Adrian, take something bad and make something good out of it. And he's like, fine. So and he starts putting like money in a plastic bag. And he's like, while we're doing this, why don't you at least quiz me on manta rays? And she's like, no. And he's like, manta means blanket in Spanish. She's like, I don't care about manta rays. He's like, that's just stupid. They're beautiful and innocent underwater miracles. They're mostly flat. And she's like, you know what else is a miracle? Your mother. You really need to treat her better. He's like, fudge her. And she's like, really? So then in the prison, the guard's like, hey, angel of death, you're free to go. And he's like, what? How? He's like, you made bail. And Chris is like, who paid? He's like, Leota Badabayo. And Chris is like, well, I don't want to fudge and go. Just give her the money back. And he's like, that's not how it works. He's like, what do you think this is, a Holiday Inn? He's like, get out of here. Economist is dangling like a giant worm above Eagly, who's like on this perch and kind of like hopping up. There's a knock on the door, and it's Chris. And he's like, ha, dude. And he's like, I'm just here to get Eagly, John. He's like, I got to go. I'm leaving town. So he's taken off. And then later, Adebayo, she's yelling at John. She's like, so you just let him go? He's like, yeah, what was I going to do, tackle him? And Adrian's like, yeah, of course, dude. He's like, what the fudge is wrong with you? And Hardcore's like, I went by his house. It was cleared out. He wasn't there. Adrian's like, I went by the retro video arcade. He wasn't there either. And John's like, he hangs out at a video arcade? And he's like, no, I went to play Frogger. Dude, what is your damage today? Adrian's like just mean to everyone. Adebayo's like, so he's on the run? He's like, can't you track him with that chip in his head? And Hardcore's like, John and I have had our clearance with anything Peacemaker related rescinded, so no. And she's like, where the fudge could he be? And then Hardcore's like, I'm late for work. She's like, don't eat all my food, Adrian. So back at the door room, teams are walking around in suits and tether. Hardcore sees like the alien dude putting like dead animals in an incinerator thing, whatever. Judah Master opens another door and gets sucked in. The two tethered behind him, like they get sucked in as well. So it's like there's a big giant black hole or something like that. They're screaming and everything. Agents outside, there's like 4 or 5. They're like trying to pull and everything. They yank them out and then they shut the door. So Otis hands Rick another update about that particular world. And there's a note that says, it's like, Rick, looks promising. Can't wait to see what's next. Lex. So 2 agents like high five each other. Rick high fives Otis. And it's like, wait, what is going on? It's like, what is he getting excited? Why is he high fiving anyone? So then at the American Star Motel, Chris and Eagly are bored in the room. Then we see Happerson and Flag. I think they're doing cocaine or something like that. And Otis comes up and Rick acts like they're like working. There's more checking out doors. Doors open. Like this one, there's like giant screaming skulls on spider legs. I feel like we've seen that before. And am I just blanking out that, or like, what is that? Then there's like this zombie world. Hardcore like drags out 2 dude. One guy got infected and another agent has to shoot him in the head. So there's like someone else dying for whatever Rick's doing. Then we see Bordeaux, this is later, she's lying like open-eyed in bed, like next to a sleeping Rick Flag. So it's like, she said that he's not her boyfriend, but they're sleeping together. And how old is Rick Flag in order for him to have Rick Flag Jr. as his son? It's like, he's way older than everyone. It's like, that's gross. We see Chris, he's like smoking like a joint or something like outside the motel room. So other agents wheeled out of the door room on a gurney. Bordeaux and John just like watching. So you can see Bordeaux's, she's getting second thoughts. So she's like, what the heck are they doing? Then we see Rick is laughing and he's like kind of partying with the others. Another agent gets dragged out. Otis hands Rick this like big file from Lex. And Rick is like happy. He's like, yeah. And Otis smiles too. John watches as this other agent is brought out, like he spits out blood, and Flurry's like, WTF. So I don't know how many agents are losing from all of this. So there's more laughing. Rick doesn't have like a single concern for all the dead agents. He just does not care. This other door opens to like this green field. Hardcore, they look at the reading. She takes her helmet off and she smiles and she hands Rick this file personally, and he kind of looks at it. He's like, oh, this is good. He's like, this is it. We got it. And she's like, got what exactly, General? Sorry, I mean Rick. He's like, what? And he's like not even paying attention to her. She's like, you wanted me to call you Rick, not General. He's like, yeah, right. And she's like, what's it for? And he's like, this is great work, Amelia. Really great work. He's like, we'll take it from here. So, and then he's kind of like dismiss her, does not even look at her. So she has no choice but to leave. Bordeaux, she kind of stands and she kind of looks at Rick, and then she and Harcourt like lock eyes, and Harcourt leaves. So Rick, he's giving like a slideshow presentation. They're in that same room in Superman's, like the UN room, office conference room, whatever it is. And he's talking to the Secretary of Defense. He's like, we call it Planet Salvation. While Bordeaux here and her team found a location, Otis and his team discovered a way to contract the journey so we can move directly from our doorway to the doorway in the new planet without ever having to go through they call it a Q-U-C or something like that. So I'm assuming that's a door room. So the secretary dude, he's like, so on Salvation, that's where we build a prison? And Rick's like, no, Mr. Secretary, Salvation is the prison. It's like, we can move the doorway every time we come in and out. The prisoners will never know where we're coming from, and no one could ever come back. So the secretary's like, and we're talking just meta-humans, right? And Rick's like, yeah, most likely. I haven't outlined all the parameters. I'm still dealing with it from a legal standpoint. So the secretary dude's like, okay, so I'm looking at a planet with a lot of natural resources, moderate temperature, seas, lakes. This doesn't exactly sound like a punishment. Rick raises his voice. He's like, I don't care about punishment, Mr. Secretary. I don't. What I care about is removing dangerous individuals from our fudging planet forever. And Happerson is there, and he's kind of like sad. He's like kind of like points to him or something like that. It's like, yeah, you got it, dude, type of thing. And Rick's like, keeping American people safe. I was like, Arkham and Bell Reeve, they're not capable of holding individuals who have extraordinary abilities. He's like, they're not. Every single month, someone escapes. It's like, no one will escape salvation. I promise. And Bordeaux, she's just sitting there quietly, and she's obviously concerned. So then Mr. Secretary is like, I got to say, Rick, you've come a long way from lambasting Luther in this room a month ago to now being the one to proactively implement his plans. And Rick's like, I do not like the guy, but he is the smartest man in the world. So why not use his brain to make the world a better place? If he's the smartest man in the world, why did he get defeated by Superman? It's not very smart, like what he was doing. So the secretary pats, he's got like this huge stack of papers, like, I don't know, 8 inches tall or something like that. And he's like, well, this is quite a plan. And then there's like a close-up of Bordeaux. We see that, again, she's bothered by all this. So walking out, Happerson, he's like rubbing Rick's shoulder. He's like, good stuff. He's like, you fucking crushed in there, man. He's like, you're my hero. So they're followed by Otis, and then Bordeaux comes out. Rick says to her, he's with the dudes, and he's like, you coming to dinner? And she's like, no, I think I'm going to call it an early night. And he's like, okay, well, I'll see you later then? Maybe, yeah? And she's like, maybe. And Happerson's like, we got to go celebrate. And they like walk off. So Hardcore comes home with like a big gash on her face. There's more stupid fighting. She's in her kitchen. She takes out like some Band-Aids and stuff. Then she gets a call from Sasha Bordeaux. So she looks at it and she's just like, what? And then she meets her at Big Belly Burger. So she goes in, Hardcore walks in, Bordeaux's like sitting at a table or a booth where she's got like kind of like her face in her hands, just like thinking. Hardcore sits, she's like, Bordeaux's like, what happened to you? And Amelia's like, nothing. And then Bordeaux's like, get something to eat if you're hungry. She's like, I hear this place is good. And she's like, yeah, it's good. And Bordeaux's like, you been here? And Hardcore's like, once. And then Bordeaux's like, you find Smith? And she like shrugs, and she's like, okay, listen, I know we didn't start off on the right foot. And Hardcore, she's like, uh-huh. And Bordeaux's like, but I've seen you out in the field, and I really respect your work. So Hardcore's like, okay, and? So she's just like, obviously there's a reason. There's something going on here. And you're just, it's like, oh, you got to be so cool and cold to everyone. It's like, why don't you just knock it off and just listen, like what this is about? So then Bordeaux's like, it's a fudging prison. And then Hardcore's like, what? So yeah, maybe try listening instead of being so hostile. So Bordeaux's like, that's what the plan is for. Rick plans on setting metahuman prisoners there, someplace that they can't come back from forever. And Hardcore like shakes her head, and Bordeaux's like, what? And Hardcore's like, John tried to tell me it wasn't for resources. And Bordeaux's like, no, it's everyone, our friends died for a fudging prison. And she's like, you're a metahuman, right? And Bordeaux's like, yeah, that's not what this is about. And Hardcore's like, you could be court-martialed for telling me this, Bordeaux. And then she like sighs. She's like, well, what are we going to do? She's like, it wasn't our choice. And Sasha's like, yeah, but they used us. They used Peacemaker. So did we. And I'm starting to think that maybe I shouldn't be spending my life serving this broken system anymore. Hardcore's like, this is what we do. It's like, try living without it for 2 years like I did. You find that out. And she's like, what else are we going to do? And Bordeaux's like, something that's not this. Hardcore like sighs. She's like, I'm thinking. And Bordeaux's like, what? She's like, I'm thinking you should meet a friend of mine. She has ideas. So then we see Adebayo. She walks into Hardcore's apartment. And I loved that they did this. So it's like Dee Schneider singing, like, if you ever heard like the piano version of We're Not Gonna Take It, it's very powerful. I mean, it's a great cheesy classic song. But when you hear this piano version, it's just like it's like more more emotional, more raw. So it's just really great here. Look at it. You can find on YouTube. He had a video for it. He's like out in the desert or something like that. I think he's wearing like a white suit, a white piano or whatever. We're not going to take his playing. And hardcore's like, Adebayo, this is Sacha Bordeaux. So then as the song's playing, because Bordeaux extends her hand, so they shake. And then they're talking while you see it, going through whatever ideas we don't hear at this point. And then later, hardcore is like washing up in the bathroom, and she sees something kind of like tucked in the mirror. So she pulls it out. It's a ticket stub for the rock cruise featuring Nelson that she went on with Chris. And then she thinks back to that. So we see them on the cruise. They're like moving towards the stage, and it also cuts back to like Chris is, he's still sitting outside his room smoking, and then back on a cruise. Nelson's going to do a song from their 2010 album Lightning Strikes Twice. So it's called "To Get Back to You," and Chris is like fudging classic. But I was hoping they're going to play their song from the 80s, "Love and Affection," if you know that song. They start playing, and hardcore is like starting to get into it, and she's like, yeah, it's pretty good. And then they kind of start like dancing, whatever. She's also very drunk, and then it's like slow motion. They look at each other, they start kissing, and it's like, oh brother. And then she pulls away, and she's like, I gotta go, and she like walks away, and he just like stands there. But it's like, they're on a cruise. How can she go unless the whole point, maybe the boat doesn't actually leave, because so maybe it's on the water, but it's not really out on a cruise, because like how's she just going to leave? And also he said before, we'll just stay for a couple songs, so maybe it's not like an actual cruise. And I guess this is the whole thing. I thought when he's like, when they talk about what happened on the boat, I thought more happened between them. Like they actually did something together, but all they did was kiss, which now I'm not dismissing that. It was a big, passionate kiss, but they're also drinking a lot. So again, he's just standing there like in shock. He doesn't try going after it because what could you do? She's just like, I gotta go. So back in the present, and then she's like, hey Sasha, she's like, do you have Peacemaker clearance? So then later, Adebayo's at Kia's. She's like petting the dogs. Kia's like, so you wanted to talk? And Az is like, yeah. And she's like, so? And she's then Az like, so I know from my my consulting firm hasn't exactly been setting the world on fire, and I have something new brewing, and it's a group effort, and I think we might have got the finances to back it up. So Kia's like, a business? And Az like, kinda. And Kia's like, still in the spy arena? And she's like, yeah. So Kia's like, Lee, if you think getting a paycheck is going to convince me to take you back, I'm not. And she's like, I don't. She's like, I'm not here for that. I'm here to tell you that I understand everything. I'm here to just let you go. We had a plan. I agreed to work for my mother temporarily so we could make some extra cash and we could start a business. That was ours. And Kia's like, a pet store, Lee, that sold healthy food, not being James Bond. And she's like, I know. But sometimes things take a turn. Sometimes you find something true about yourself that leads you to someplace you didn't even know you were going to go. It's like, I've learned a relationship isn't just about how much you love somebody, but it's about building a life together, where both partners can be happy, where your lives, they make each other stronger, and you burn brighter because of it. And I know if I have the life that I want, it will kill you. And I've denied that like an idiot. And if you have the life that you want, I'm going to feel trapped. So it tears me apart to my bones, and I will love you for the rest of my days, Ki, but I know we ain't for each other. And so she's like crying, just got her eyes all red. It's like great performance, It's like, they're really, it's sad. And she's like, I know that too, Lee. And Adebayo like holds out her hand. Kia like puts hers in it, and there's like more crying and stuff like that. So then later, Bordeaux brings Hardcore and Economos into like the hub area, and Happerson's there, and she's like, distract him. Like, he can see everything that I do on this monitor. So then John stands up in front of his station. He's like, hey, Hap, what's up? And he's like, what? And John's like, did you watch the Prawns game last night? And Otis like, there was no game last night. And John's like, fudge you, man. I didn't ask you, did I? I asked Happerson. And he goes back and he's like, did you watch a game? This other lady's like, you think Happerson watches football? And John's like, well, if he doesn't, he should have started last night because it was a good game. This other guy's like, it didn't happen, dumb fudge. And Otis like, wonder why nobody likes you? And John's like, plenty of people like me. And it doesn't even matter if they don't, because God and Jesus and Holy Ghost like me. And Hardcore is like looking at his attempt to distract, and he's so doing this is so horrible. And he's like, they like all of you, including you dumb punt. He doesn't call him a punt, looking at Otis. Then he whispers Bordeaux and Hardcore. He's like, what the fudge am I supposed to do? I'm choking, man. And Hardcore's like, I don't know, tell a joke or something. And he's like, did you guys hear about the lobster that went into a bar and the bartender was like, what the fudge? Because they don't belong in bars. They belong in the sea. But they can live long. They live long like tortoises. But they're supposed to be immortal, but they die because their shells stop growing. That's not a joke. That's just a fact. They get crushed by their own exoskeletons. And he turns to them and he say, and she's like, you are the worst in the world of black ops. And he's like, did I ever say I wasn't? And he's like, you could be doing this. And Sasha walks away from the terminal, and she's like, Peacemaker's at a motel on the south side. And then John's like, I'll call Ads. So Chris walks out of the room, and Ads comes out of her car. She's like, hey, Chris. And he starts like running. He's like, oh, he's like, sorry, Ads. He's like, I got to go. So he starts kind of like jogging his car. Then he sees Hardcore, and he's like, fudge. And she gets out of her car. And John, he's like, hey. He's like, why are you leaving? And he's like, everybody stop, okay? I'm leaving town. So he's at his truck. He's got the door open. He's about to go in. Then Adrian, or actually Vigilante, he's in costume, comes like, tackles him. And he's like, what the fudge? And Adrian pulls out his taser. And they're like, Adrian, stop. And then he's like, got him. So then in his room, Chris has like ice pack on his head. Ad's like, what are you doing, man? He's like, I'm not doing anything. You guys are forcing me to be here. And Hardcore's like, we have all tried every day to see you, and this is how we have to do it. He's like, just let it go. And Ad's like, we're not letting it go, Chris. You're one of us. The 11th Street kids, you told us yourself on M's roof, no one will ever break us apart. He's like, well, I was wrong. He's like, I should never have included myself in that. And Hardcore's like, what? And Adrian's like, dude, we're just trying to figure out what's going on because you're being weird. And John's like, why didn't you want to get out of prison? And he's like, would you guys just look at the big picture? And Hardcore's like, we're trying to figure that out, Chris. And he's like, seriously? He's like, I'm fudging cursed. And he's like, what? He's like, look at me. And they're like, we are looking at you. He's like, no, you're not. You're not looking at the big fudging picture, all right? He's like, and I'm not being stupid. Look, we've all learned there's like magic out there, right? We've just learned there's poop that can't be explained. Well, I'm fudging cursed. And Adebayo's like, you're not cursed, dude. He's like, Ads, my brother was my best friend. I killed him when I was 8, all right? I befriended Rick Flag Jr. I fudging killed him too. I killed my own fudging father. I get to go to an alternative dimension, and what's the first thing I do? I kill my fudging self. And then I find my father and my brother alive, and glory be, I fudging kill them too. And she's like, that's stupid poop. He's like, fudge off, Ads. She's like, don't tell me it's stupid. All right, everybody around me fudging dies. And she's like, Chris, listen to me. Every time someone around you dies, it's because you're not listening to yourself. Your father told you to fight your brother. You did. Waller told you to kill Rick, and you did. And you knew that you shouldn't have gone to that other world. Don't tell me that you thought in your heart that that was the right thing to do. But when you are truly who you are, Chris Smith, it's like, what happens? Chris, what happens, man? Like, nothing. It's like, you touch people, man. I believe in miracles because of you. I saw an eagle hug a human. And she's like shedding a tear. It's like, I know who I am because of you. And when I'm around you, I feel loved. It's like, you're big and you're stupid, but I know you love me. And I don't know if I can say that about anybody else in the world. And Adrian's like, dude, you're my best friend. He's like, I don't want to do cool poop without you. And Adebayo's like, and John loves you so much, he put himself on the line countless times for you. And he's like the biggest coward who ever existed. And John's like, Jesus, you got to work that in? Hardcore's like, and me, Chris. It's like, you hear me, Chris? We're tied, you and I, all of us. And we have all been listening to someone else, to Waller, to Flag, to Argus, fudge them all. Fudge them. And Ed's like, we're going to do something, Chris, for us and for the world. We're going to stand the fudge up, but we need our boy with us. We need you. You going to let us down? And he looks at him, and they kind of like, they like nod at him like, are you? So they each leave. Then he goes out after hardcore. He's like, hey. And she's like, what? He's like, did it mean something? And she's like, what? He's like, the boat. And she's like, ugh. She's like, my God, the boat again? He's like, did it mean something? And she's like, Chris, I told you, okay? I'm not right in the head. He's like, Amelia, I'm not asking for anything. I just want to know if it meant something to you at all. So he's talking about the kiss. And she's just like, she turns around. She's like, of course it did, you fudging a-hole. It meant everything. And she turns and walks away. And he's just standing there kind of like shocked. He goes inside, and he's like, kind of stands there, like looks around his room. And he jumps up with his fist up. He's like, yes. And then the intro music plays, the Foxy Shazam song, and he's like starts dancing in his place. Then it cuts to 1 week later. Foxy Shazam happens to be doing the boat cruise. They're playing the theme song, whatever that song is called. And I have to admit, like the song has grown on me since like the first episode. So we see the group in Adrian's basement. They're putting cash in bags. Adrian kind of dances around, like his money is like flying. Then they're in this like big office. They're moving furniture. Bordeaux's there with them, which is cool. Amelia like puts this rabbit with like a cape on a desk, holding a sign that says "Obstacles are opportunities." I don't know if they've ever mentioned that before. If that means something, whatever. Then we see them. They're walking in a line. They're smiling. Flurry's there. He's with them. Judo Master's with them. He's not smiling, of course. So then there's a shot of like all 8 of them walking. Then later, sitting at their desks, they got like computer terminals, whatever, monitors. And Flurry's quizzing Adrian on spiders. So he's looking at a screen, and he's like, "Can they fly?" And Adrian's like, "No." So Flurry's like, "Yes, they can, using electricity." And Adrian's like, "What?" He's like, "Yes, electricity." And then he's like, "Can spiders make milk?" And Adrian's like, "No." Flurry's like, "Yes, they can." And Adrian's like, "What?" He's like, "They can make milk?" He's like, "Yeah." And Adrian's like, "Do they have udders?" He's like, how do they do that?" And Flurry's like, "They have little tiny udders. Yeah, definitely." He's like, "You can buy spider milk, you know?" And Adrian's like, "What? Where?" He's like, "At Whole Foods." He's like, "Have you been studying spiders?" And Adrian's like, "Yeah, I know everything there is to know about spiders." Apparently not. And then Flurry's like, "Can spiders regrow lost legs?" And he's like, "Yes." So he's clearly guessing. And he's like, "You're right. Many spiders have the ability to regrow a lost leg during their molting process." Then he's like, "What is the molting process?" And Adrian's like, "That's when like lava comes out of a volcano and it molts." Which is not. And Flurry's like, "Yeah." Then it cuts back to like Foxy Shazam on the stage. We also see like in the office, Eagly, he puts like a talon in John's hand. I think he's clipping his nails or something like that. And then, this is kind of sweet, Eagly puts a wing on John's shoulder. And John's kind of surprised, and they like lock eyes. Because, he got him, what I say before, he got him lunch meat. And he was, dangling a worm for him. And he's like doing his claws, his nails. So Eagly appreciates it. On the boat, Hardcore puts her head on Chris's shoulder. Then she's like dancing. She's singing the final lyrics of the song. So I guess she's into this music now. Then we see them all exit the building, and we see the name of their business. It says Checkmate, making the world better. So they're bringing Checkmate in from the comics. Okay, that's cool. I mean, we've seen so many different versions of that. And then fade to black. Is that the end? No, not even close. Then we see Chris go into his hotel room. 3 dudes in masks and like helmets. They put a bag over his head, and they throw him in a like back of a truck, and they put like a gun on him. And they tell him not to move. They put like cuffs and chains on him. He's taken to Argus, the big like warehouse where they've been doing all the stuff. The bag is taken off. The door open to the truck. A guy on the outside. He's like, "Well, we'll take it from here." So Flag is just standing there, and Chris is like, "What the fudge is this?" He's like walking, he's like walked out. He has like chains on his ankles too. Happerson and Otis are there, and he sees they're marching him towards a door. So he tries like resisting, but they're like forcing him. And then Chris and the two guards, they enter through the door. He like looks around or in the big field. There's like tall grass. They start to undo his chains and everything like that. Again, he's like, what is this? And then you see he's like, what the fudge is this, Flag? And he's like, before we move all the metahuman prisoners here, I thought a little due diligence is required. See what effects this dimension has on a human body. I want to thank you for volunteering. And he's like, I didn't volunteer for poop. And he's like, what? McCoy? So the lady, she's like, it's all here. It's like, this is definitely Christopher Smith's signature. And then Rick's like, yeah, this is for Ricky, you piece of poop. But it's like, why is he so mad at Peacemaker? Why is he not mad at Waller? If Waller issued the order, told him what to do, I mean, Rick is a soldier. I'm sure he's done orders that he doesn't agree with. So Waller told him to take him out or whatever. I don't remember exactly. But it's just so stupid. And Chris runs and dives through the door, but then it dissolves. And then in the hub, the others walk away. Rick's just standing there. Because this is all of this. They spent millions of dollars. They've lost so many agents' lives just because Rick wants to get revenge. And then he finally like walks away. And then Chris gets up, he like looks around, there's like nothing. Then he hears like a big roar from the trees. There's like lots of roars and animal noises, and that's where it ends. That is the end of the season, and possibly of the show. Because there's nothing, we get an extended scene. It's with the Secretary of Defense, that dude, and he says that, he hasn't read the whole thing. He's like, but have you thought about a vaporizing barrier, like maybe around the whole planet? And Rick's like, what the fudge is a vaporizing barrier? And he's like, it's like a bug zapper for metahumans, aliens, and other pieces of trash. And Rick's like, are you making this up? Are you making this poop up? And he's like, no. And then there's another extended scene of Economos when he's trying to create the distraction. He's like telling this like joke that's not even funny, whatever. And this lady just like randomly starts laughing at him, even though it's not funny. He's like, she's a fan. So that was it. So all of this, again, Rick was doing all of this just to have someplace to put Peacemaker. So not only, squashing his rights, he's locking him up. All the agents' lives lost, millions of dollars, Harcourt says, is being spent. And what makes Rick any different than Lex Luthor? He's just as bad. He's just a piece of crap. And yeah, I get it. Your son was killed. That's horrific. No one wants that. But Chris was following orders. So it's just, I don't get it. And now the fact that we don't know where this is going to happen. Well, in the behind the scenes stuff, James Gunn mentions, this cliffhanger, and he's like, well, this is going to play a big role in, the future of the DCU. So we're not necessarily going to see what happens in Peacemaker season 3, because who knows if there is going to be one, but it's going to pop up somewhere else. Maybe, I'm assuming in this movie he does. If the movie is going to be a Superman and Lex Luthor or whatever, I don't know. So is John Cena going to be in that? I don't know. It's like a weird ending, but yeah, so now we have no idea how long we have to wait to get any answers from that. So it's kind of a letdown knowing that there's not going to be a season 3, at least not anytime soon. Maybe down later, I don't know. So that is it. That is the end. That's a season 2 finale. Hopefully we'll hear something soon. All right, then with Marvel Zombies, season 1, episode 4. Episode 4. Yes, I'm going to continue doing that. This is the last episode. And what I will say is I enjoyed this series. I don't know if I should say this now or at the end, but I found this more interesting than like X-Men events or comic book events. Because the reason I say X-Men is talking about like Age of Apocalypse or Age of whatever, this Age of Revelation, whatever we're talking about, where it's like take this alternate world or alternate future or side dimension, whatever. That's basically what we have here. We have this other world where things are going horribly or whatever's happening. what I like about this is, it is tied to, sort of in a way to the Marvel universe because, you have like the same voice actors. So in a way, it's like, where they sort of got their beginnings from or where their origins are coming from. But then things veered off into this alternate reality or whatever. And I can appreciate that it's like, because it's an alternate reality, so it's like that thing where anything goes. There are major characters that are getting killed. There are major characters that have been turned into zombies, and there's like a whole bunch of crazy stuff happening. And I find that so exciting, and I don't know why some people are like, this was okay, whatever. It's just, some things are silly, whatever, but it's basically Marvel characters trying to survive. And the whole thing with Wanda being the Queen of the Dead, whatever, and it's like, what exactly she's doing? I don't know. I'm really interested in what's happening here. And after like rewatching that What If episode, it's like, okay, it did leave us hanging. Is there a way to, fix everything? And that's what we've been seeing, that things haven't been going that great. So episode 4 starts off where the Nova Corps, they're basically like, we're going to blow you up. So now it starts out where Nova Corps ships are chasing the heroes, and they're like basically firing on them. So it's like they have zero intentions of helping. They're just going to obliterate them, which is pretty bad. So they tell them that they're under disinfection protocol. So it's like yeah, they're going to disinfect them by blowing them up. When they get hit, they're starting to get like holes in the ship. Kamala's like patching the holes with crystals and everything. So then at one point she has to like patch the cockpit like windshield. So it's like you can't see anything. And then she grunts out, it's like, they were supposed to help, not shoot us out of the sky. And Blade says that they are helping. They're preventing the spread of the zombie plague to the rest of the universe. Valkyrie tells Shang-Chi to hit the side thrusters now. He's like, I don't know what button to push. And then he just pushes a bunch of buttons. And then the ship comes to a complete stop. And then the ship gets hit, whoosh, blows up, is obliterated. And then spacecraft has been disinfected. And then whoosh, they fly off. When all the smoke clears, there's smoke in space apparently. They're inside this big crystal ball. And Valkyrie's like, look at you, saving all our lives. And she's like, can you fly this back to Earth? And Kamala's like, who said I can fly? And Valkyrie's like, And then they start re-entering. They're heating up as they're going, re-entering the atmosphere. And then the crystal starts cracking. And they keep pointing out that Kamala, it's cracking, it's still cracking. And she's like, just shut up, I'm trying to concentrate. Then the crystals are gone, and they're all like free falling. Blade, you see him, he's just kind of standing. It's like he's standing in as he's falling with his arms crossed. But then he like disappears. It's like, and Shang-Chi notices like Katie disappears. It's like, what's going on? They're all disappearing like right before they hit the water. And then it's like it fades to black, and then there's like some yellow light. There's some voices, and then it's like Peter Parker's talking, and you hear him. There's his voice in a distance, like, any landing you can walk away from is a good one. He's like, you can still walk, right? So we see Peter standing over Kamala. She opens her eyes and she lets out a huge gasp. She's like, Spider-Man. She's like, I can't believe, did you just save us? Like, dude, like, I didn't know you had magic powers. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I'm such a fan. And then Scott Lang, his head pops up. And he's like, hey. And she like, boom, she like punches his glass dome, and she screams. She's like, flying head. And she's like, oh, you're Scott Lang's head. I thought she was going to be like, I don't know who you are. Because how would the average person know who Scott Lang is? Because he's wearing, he doesn't have a body. He doesn't have a costume. And usually he would have like the Ant-Man helmet on. So I don't know. And he's like, I know it's weird, but you get used to it. And Peter's like, maybe. And he's like, well, some people get used to it. Katie asks, like, where are they? Blade says, Kamar Taj. And then those 3 magic people come up to him that we see. Was it London Master is the dude with the beard. Rintra, I think, is the Minotaur, whatever, bullhead dude. And then the woman's name is Sarah. It's like, okay, don't have a fancy name. So Valkyrie says, she's like, oh, if I've learned one thing in life, is that when a Minotaur talks, you listen. Scott, he's like floating whatever next to Blade. He's like, all white, huh? He's like, it's a bold choice for a zombie apocalypse. but Blade just ignores him. So then there's like we see some red clouds, whatever. Wanda's floating, and she's trying to find Kamala. I was like, why? Rintrah, Minotaur dude, he says that they've watched helplessly as the plague consumed the planet. Sarah, she says that King T'Challa sacrificed himself to destroy Thanos and Infinity Stones that he was wielding, but by doing so, he saved reality itself. So then the London Master dude, he's like, but the stones were shattered. A hurricane of infinity energy raged unchecked. Sarah says that the storm destroyed everything in its path, and it had to be contained, so they needed someone who could take the infinity energies into their form, and like hold him. So they needed a Hulk. And we see like Hulk's like stepping into the tornado and like absorbing the infinity energies, and he's like starts roaring, and Kamala's like, wait, Bruce is alive? And Sarah's like, Bruce Banner was a brave man. And she's like, what do you mean was? Rintrah, the Minotaur, he's like, he's no longer Bruce Banner or the Hulk. He's a cipher. He's now an anchor protecting the energies that could make or destroy worlds. He's protecting us. And Blade's like, so this is the part where you tell us why we're here? Rintrah says that it's like, well, you've met the Queen of the Dead. And Sarah's like, she has finally gathered an army strong enough to defeat Banner and take the power for herself. Rintrah says that their last stand is upon us. Like, the battle is now. We, ask that you ride into danger with us to fight for the fate of the planet. And Scott's like, we don't ask this lightly. We know you've been through a lot, so we'll leave it to you, for you to decide. Then Kamala, she's like sitting on like a rooftop or ledge or something like that, and she's thinking about like Riri, Kate, and Alexi, just like everyone. And she's like, sheds a tear, thinking about everyone that's died. Shang-Chi comes and sits by her, asks her if she's freaking out too. And she's like, well, I'm not scared. And she's like, it's something else. And he's like, well, talk to me. She's like, I asked all of you to follow me, to give up everything on the chance that we could fix things, and I was wrong. She's like, it was all for nothing. Wanda said that she needs me, but what if she wants me to go to Paris? And he's like, you're right. We can't know for sure, but we have to hold on to hope. And he's like, I mean, you saw Thor drinking his life away in defeat, regret in his eyes, but in the end, what he really wanted was one last chance to fight. He's like, and you gave that to him. You gave that to all of us. He's like, I'll always be grateful to you for that. And if we have one more, he's like, I'm going to take it. And she's like, are you sure? He's like, hey, we have to win one of these eventually, don't we? And it's like, not necessarily. He's like, also, am I crazy, or did Thor kind of make you an Avenger back there? And she smiles and she gives him a hug, and she's like, thank you. And he's like, all right, pal, come on. He's like, enough sitting around. We got a world to save. Then Valkyrie, she's like, has the little one found her fire? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, I knew if I stayed on this rock long enough, I'd end up fighting for it. And what does dear Khonshu have to say? And he's like, this is a fight worth fighting. Blade says that. So then Katie's like, one last chance to see the world? She's like, I'm in. She's like so easygoing about everything. And Kamala's like, okay, then let's do this. So then we see, like, I'm pretty sure it's Wakanda, like, I think it's Wakanda, like the vibranium core. There's just like all this energy shooting out, like straight up. And so that's where Wanda's headed. And what used to be Hulk is standing. Infinity Hulk is what he's referred to in the closed captioning. He's standing at the edge, kind of like waiting. There's like voices whispering distinctly, as the closed captions say. And then his head looks up and he growls. Wanda and her army are approaching. Then the zombie army charges. They're like swarming towards him. And so she has some like giant, I'm assuming Pym particle zombies, because there's just like huge, there's like some huge zombies. Zombie abominations like running in the lead. As soon as he approaches, Infinity Hulk slams his fist against him. Huge release of energy. And it's just like, it plows through the zombies, just like mows them over, like just obliterates them. More zombies are approaching. He pulls back his fist and he kind of like punches, but he's not really hit anything. But as he's punching, it's like all this energy is coming out and he's like knocking down more of them. Just like just knocking down like waves of zombies. And it's just, it's just like pushing him back. Wanda brings this big thing hovering over him. So I think it might have been the raft. Maybe she pulled it from the water somehow, and she's just been carrying it, floating it around. And because like water pours down and zombies swarm and like kind of scratch him, gouge into him, whatever. He knocks them back,
Then he gets stopped by like a big giant zombie. Two others join in. They slam their fists on top of him, and Hulk's on his knees, just like taking it. And then they do more. He does more of his like punching stuff, and he actually like starts slicing them into pieces as he's like punching with this energy or whatever. Then zombies from there's like these floating ships, like almost like Viking ships or whatever. A bunch of zombies start like jumping out of them, and they have like axes and stuff. They're like attacking him, like slashing at him. So he takes the hits and everything like that, and he starts like pounding on them, knocking them aside. Wanda's still watching, and then one of the big Viking ships has this like gun turret that aims and like continues like nonstop bullets start like firing on the Hulk. Huge volley of bullets. There's lots of turrets. It's not just the one. Like all these ships like have these. He's just like grunting as he takes it. Wanda approaches him, and she changes to like human form, so she looks like normal, like not a zombie. And she's like, "It's a burden, isn't it, to hold all this power?" And she like reaches out. She's like, "I've come to see your pain." He like punches her. She flies across the landscape and crashes into like some of the swarm. He looks, and then a portal opens up. Scott, Spider-Man, Valkyrie, Katie, Shang-Chi, Kamala, Blade, Rintrah, Sarah, and London Master, they all land. They're ready to fight. They're like fighting stance and everything like that. Wanda gives a low growl. Hulk is still like crouch, and then Wanda like looks down at like both sides of the heroes, and Shang-Chi's like, "See you on the other side." Wanda looks down. She goes back to human form. She's like, "Kamala, I'm glad you came, child." Kamala like crystallizes her fist, whispers, "Bismillah." And Rintrah is like, "No matter what, we cannot let that witch touch Banner." So he like roars. Katie's like roars and yells as well. The others join in. Zombies are growling. They charge the zombies. Zombies like are heading towards them. Kamala makes another big crystal shield because normally she's been making these like kind of plows and just like kind of pushing them back. Only this time, she makes it a little higher. And she must have made it a bit sharper because as it goes whoosh, she slices the heads off of like a bunch of zombies. It's like she's stepping it up. Normally Kamala would never dream of killing a zombie. Would want to kill anything, but here it's hardcore now. It's a different thing. So it's just like whoosh. And I kind of appreciate how they're getting more violent because they have to, but it also means that if there is a way to fix things, there's all these people are dead. I don't know if they could come back because they've been sliced up. Because we see Blade, he throws a bunch of like crescent darts, and and he lands, he chops up a bunch, with his sword. Kamala's like running through zombies with crystals on her, she's like smashing and slicing them up. Katie's like slicing zombies with her rings. Valkyrie's like slicing with her sword. Shang-Chi's slicing with his ring. Scott like plows through a bunch because he can't do anything. He's just a floating head, right? Rintrah uses his horns to impale zombies. London Master unleashes like some magic runes or something like that, like something off his sword, and it like lands on several zombies' heads. Like this, just like a symbol appears there, and then he utters something, and then they explode. Spider-Man, he's like jumping around, spinning webs like all over, and then he just like pulls, rips their heads and spines out of their zombie bodies. Sarah conjures some portals like in front of the ships with the bullets, and she causes them to appear behind them. So basically they fire upon themselves. These big helicarriers or whatever they are, they're blowing up or anything. Wanda's like fuming. Hulk kind of gives like a happy growl. And then we see zombie Hawkeye. It's like, man, how's he getting around? Is Wanda giving him a ride everywhere? Because I hope he's not having to find his own way, because if he's just a zombie, it might be a little harder. He opens his mouth, and zombie Hank Pym and Ant-Man and Wasp like fly out. London Master, he slices like an X in the air, and it stays like solid, and it just like moves forward and just like slices through like all the zombies that it hits, including Hawkeye Zombie. Hawkeye Zombie is finally off the board. I mean, there's no coming back from this. Katie yells that they have zombie bugs, and they're flying towards Hulk. Kamala like throws up a crystal wall. They just like whoosh, they hit it. They smash into it. Zombie Hank Pym is jumping around, and he's avoiding Shang-Chi's like rings as they're flying through the air. He's like kind of jumping through them, and that. When he reaches Shang-Chi, he gets like punched back. Blade puts his foot down on Zombie Hank, but then Hank grows to like giant size. That sends the Blade flying back. So then he turns Infinity Hulk. He launches like a giant fist at him, but then Spidey webs the fist and stops him from connecting. Then Spidey jumps on a giant Hank Pym's head and pulls up the webbing that's still on his fist, and he starts making him like punch himself in the face. And he's like, "Why are you hitting yourself?" Zombie Wasp grows to hit Hulk, but then Kamala creates and extends like this big crystal fist and gives Wasp a massive uppercut. Wasp falls back, but then shrinks while Kamala like she's like cheering, and then she grows to hit Kamala. But Valkyrie shoves her out of the way and takes the hit. So she takes a full hit, like full force. A bunch of heroes like turn and to see like what's going on. Then there's like a bubbling movement. It's continuing up her arm till it reaches her head, and then her head just explodes. And you see Valkyrie just standing there holding her two swords covered in blood, and she's like laughing. Zombie Hank is still like punching himself, thanks to Spidey. And then he shrinks, so Spidey starts falling. But then as Hank falls, Scott headbutts, or jar butts, what would you say? He headbutts him, jar butts him, and Khonshu warns Blade like behind him, and then he slices Hank's body in half, like vertically. So Hank's gone. More indistinct voices whisper. Wanda's whispering, "Kamala." And she stands and she looks at Wanda. She's like, "Kamala, help me. Help. I'm trying to see you all. Can't you see I'm trying?" Kamala like squeezes her eyes shut. She's like, "I can't help you. You're not saving us. You're killing us." And she's like, "Kamala, if you would stop me, all this is for nothing. Would you have your friends die for nothing?" And she's like, "No." And Wanda teleports like right in front of Kamala and speaks normally. "If you stop me, Kate and Riri." She's like, "Stop it." And she's like, "Would have died for nothing." And Kamala's like, "Don't say their names." And she blasts like Wanda like with her crystals. And so it sent her up, but she's like still fine. And she's like, "You are blind to your own salvation. If I can't convince you, maybe your friends can." So smoke clears and there's new zombies there. So her fallen like friends and allies, Kamala gasps. They move towards her, and she puts up another crystal shield, and then they're like pounding and gnashing on the crystals. Scott and Spidey, they see a giant zombie Hope. So Hope Pym, is their last name Pym? So Hope, and she starts like pounding on them. There's red smoke everywhere. Shang-Chi and Katie, the smoke is around them. Two zombies stand before them. Then they like start breaking into. It's like weird. They're like kind of float. They like come apart and start attacking. So I don't know, these magic zombies that can fall into pieces, or I mean maybe Wanda's doing that. I don't know. So then there's red lightning. A bunch of people look around. Sarah and London Master, they get zapped by this huge bolt of lightning or energy, whatever. They're just like charred bones standing. And then zombie Thor, superhero, lands on top of them. So they're gone. Hulk looks up at zombie Thor, and he calls like Stormbreaker to him. So it's like glowing red. He walks towards the Hulk. Rintra yells in concern. Valkyrie runs to him, but she gets blocked by Okie. Maybe it might have been her. Blade leaps at Thor, but then he gets zapped and obliterated. So he's gone. There's no more Fist of Khonshu. So Thor leaps and starts striking at Hulk. Infinity Hulk groans, and he catches hold of Stormbreaker, and then and a bunch of energy is unleashed. So the zombies are starting to crack Kamala's shield. Shang-Chi and Katie to continue fighting. Infinity Hulk grabs Thor's head and is about to punch him in the face, but then Thor spits out like a bolt of red thunder from his mouth. I didn't know he could do that. Hulk takes the blast, and then he hits Thor like 4 times, and an uppercut sends him flying up. Hulk leaps up, and it is like a double punch sends Thor flying back to the ground. He smashes, and then Infinity Hulk lands and stomps like on his face. And there's a big burst of energy. More zombies head towards Kamala's shield, and then she unleashes, and she like knocks them back. Then she looks over at Hulk, and we see Thor's face is just like kind of like a charged skeleton. So I guess zombie Thor's gone. Kamala and Hulk kind of like lock eyes. Then Wanda appears, or she zips like right in front of him. So Kamala tries to yell and warn him, but Wanda like, she reaches towards Hulk, and I don't know if she like reaches into his chest or something like that. So the infinity energy starts pouring like into her. Shang-Chi, he gets bit in the shoulder from like behind. The zombie just like clamps onto him. Rintrah runs towards Banner, calling out. He's like, Banner! And then he gets like hit from behind, and he gets impaled by spears, zombie spears. Kamala's like, no! She leaps up with like crystallized arms, like slams into like Wanda. But then they just like shatter and kind of like fly away. So Wanda turns to her. She's like, I knew you'd come. Kamala like screams and tries like hitting her again. She's like, I saw it. She tries again. She's like, we were meant to be here to end this together. So Kamala gives another hit, but like it's having no effect. She's like, I'm too strong for you, Kamala. She's like, no. And Wanda's like, but still not strong enough to save us. So Scott and Spidey, they're trying to get away from zombie. Wanda's like, save us, I need you. And Kamala's like, no. And she's like, don't fight, help me. And Kamala's like, no, I can't help you. And then zombie, okay, grunts, stabs Valkyrie's like midsection. And Kamala's like, if I help you, I betrayed a memory of all my friends and all who suffered, all who died. And Wanda's like, no, we can fix this. It's like, you'll help me bring them all back. And Kamala's like, no, you're lying. Kamala like looks around like the suffering. She's like, the suffering. And Shang-Chi is like starting to change. There's like zombies, like Alexei, and I think there's like some like the widows. They're like pulling at Cloak at Scott. So Wanda's like, save them, take my hand. And you're like, take my hand. It like kind of echoes like in a whisper. And she's like, all will be made whole. That's all you have to do. Hope is about to put like Spider-Man in her mouth. And Wanda's like, you can still save the world like you always wanted. And she starts getting like flashes of everything to happen. And then Scott's dome is like starting to crack. And Kamala's like, I'm sorry, this can't all be for nothing. Then there's like indistinct voices whispering. Kamala takes Wanda's hand, and infinity energy starts flowing into Kamala. And she's like, and so the world begins again. Infinity energy explodes, expands, covers the entire planet. There's like a bunch of white light. The music, just crescendos. And then Kamala like hears her mom calling her. She's lying in bed. Kamala, wake up, come down. And she's like, your friends are here. You're at the door. Do you hear me? Kamala's like, my friends? She sits up and gasps, so she's back in her room. Big smile on her face. She rushes down, opens the door. It's Kate and Riri. And she gives them like a huge hug. She's like, I missed you guys so much. Like all smushed. Kate's like, okay, we missed you too. And Kamala's like, I'm never letting go of you again. And Riri's like, well, you kind of have to if we're going to get Boba. And Kamala gasps. She's like, Boba, oh, Boba. Tighter hug, like turns into, like, cuts to them slurping through straws. They're all drinking their boba. And Kamala's like, Boba, oh, I've literally gone like 5 years without boba. And Kate's like, we just got boba yesterday. And Kamala's like, oh, I love New Jersey and I love you guys. And Kate's like, we know that's the 10th time you've said it. Kamala talks about other things she wants to do. She wants to get food. She wants to ride the train with totally normal, not dead people. She wants to smell them and not vomit. And Kate asks if there's, what's gotten into her. And Kamala just like sighs. She's like, everything is great. Look around, okay? She's like, appreciate. And she's like, like good friends, cool breeze, that very, very cute guy. So there's a guy like kind of across the street by Circle Q, and he takes off his bike helmet and stuff like that. Riri agrees that he's like, yeah, he is cute or whatever. Kamala starts imitating like nom, 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 like she wants to eat him up, I guess. Then there's a sudden flicker of screaming zombies, and she like gasps, and she looks like around the corner, like everything's fine. And then there's another zombie flickering, like all this like carnage and stuff like that. And she looks around, it keeps like there's like another flicker. Then Riri calls her name, Kamala, can you hear me? And she's like, it's flickering back and farther, quicker, like zombie world. And Riri says that she hacked the signal, and she's like, I don't believe it's all fake. Kamala, it's not real. And she's back to normal world. So Riri's saying it's not real. There's like indistinct voices, like whispering, and she sits wide-eyed. Kate says her name to get her attention. She's like, are you good? And then there's a fade to black, and then there's a close-up of Wanda snarling. And that's the end. So what is going on? It looks like the world's normal, but it's not. Is this just all an illusion? If it's an illusion, is Kamala like in danger of getting bit? Or like, I don't know. I don't understand how this works, because what do I know about magic? But yeah, so the story's not over. The problem is, how many people have we lost? How many people have made it? I hope we get more. I find this interesting. I don't like that they killed off so many people right away, but if like, are Kate and Riri back, or are they not? Are they fake? Because if some of the dead could come back and still be there to deal with Wanda, does she have more energy? Did she use her energy to kind of fix some things, or does that still count against? I don't know, but I wouldn't mind seeing more. So fingers crossed. That was Marvel Zombies, 4 episodes, Disney Plus. All right, then the movie feature is Black Phone 2. So as I think I mentioned at the beginning, I'm kind of surprised that we had the sequel, because, spoiler, the Ethan Hawke character, the grabber, he doesn't do so well at the end of the first one. So it's like, how are you going to make a second one? And this, if you see, I mean, it's kind of obvious in the trailer, and this is where I'm kind of on the fence with this direction. Like, in some ways it makes sense, but basically what it kind of comes down to is the grabber, Ethan Hawke, he kind of almost becomes sort of like a Freddy Krueger character, because he's not in like the normal physical world, so he's almost like attacking people through dreams or whatever, and I don't know about that. Because it's too similar. It's not Freddy Krueger, but it's very similar to that. And I don't know how I feel. At the same time, it's not like, oh, all of a sudden there's like magic or spirits, but it's like, no, we had that in the first one. I mean, there's a whole fact that there's a phone that doesn't work, and like dead spirits are calling the phone and stuff. It's kind of fine with that. The question is, well, why? Why is he able to do this? Well, we do sort of get some explanation as to the connection. So what's cool about this is, it in some ways, without knowing the full detail, it's like, wait, we're at a different location, because it starts off, you see there's like this camp like in the Colorado, like the Rocky Mountains, whatever, in winter, and it's like there's a phone there. So it's like, wait, we're doing this again? Like, what is this connection? And it's like, I think it was, I forget when it was, if it was in the 50s or something like that. But you see there's like someone at the camp like answering the phone and talking to someone about, they're being held by someone. And I don't know if that's a spoil. I'm trying to remember if they tell you right away who it is. But that was like kind of weird. And so anyways, Finney, his sister, who she has some like psychic ability, because her mom had that. The dad doesn't believe it. Dad's like, she wasn't right in the head. That's why she killed herself and stuff like that. And thankfully he's gotten his act together, because he used to just drink all the time, and he would like beat the kids to, keep them in line or whatever. So he doesn't want to hear about this magic stuff, because he feels like that's what drove his wife into killing herself. And now his daughter's doing that too, going on about this stuff. But she's like having dreams, and she has a dream about the camp and her mom being there, and there's like all this stuff that kind of ties back to it. So they figure out a way to get to the camp. That even though it's like winter, there's like kind of like a training program where they can go there just to kind of learn the ins and outs of the place. So by going there, and then with the grabbers like spirit or whatever, there's, it all kind of ties into that. and then so Finney's sister, she's now she's kind of seeing him, Bill, whatever you want to call him. She's starting to see like visions and dreams of him, and it's kind of dangerous because you can get hurt and killed, and so there's like a lot just goes on, and we do see some like flashbacks, like some stuff like before the first movie, and that's where like there's this one like we see one person get connected. I don't know how much I should say. I mean, maybe I've said enough. I find I take it back. So it sounds like wow, Tony really likes this movie and everything. I did like it. I do think the evolution of the grabber is a little weird, but then there was kind of like a part in the middle where it seems like it's like, not that it drags on, but it just feels like it kind of goes on for a bit, and it's like, okay, where are you going with this, and what's happening, and because it's Finney, his sister, and this other guy, it's Ernesto. Is it Ernesto? Yeah, Robin's brother. So it's like they're at this camp, and they're trying to find out information. There's like some kids that were killed up there, and and it's like a Christian camp. So like the Christian couple, like the lady is just like wicked, and yeah. So it's like there's this part in the middle where it's just like sort of drawn out, where it just feels like it's like, okay, are we going to get where's the action? What's going to happen? And then obviously things start heating up and so forth. But you see it in a trailer, like there's something about this sort of like dream spirit grabber or whatever that makes him almost creepier in a way. Like there's one part where there's like this frozen lake, and you see him like on ice skates skating, carrying an axe, and it's almost silly in a way, but it's also I found it's kind of creepy in a way. So you have all these different things, and it is kind of cool to see like Finney, like, okay, this is some time has passed since the first movie. He's still dealing with a lot. The fact that he was just like kidnapped and in this cave in this basement, and then just with like what he saw and heard, and so there's a lot that I liked, and I like how I don't think the first movie did it, but they kind of had these like weird like transition and cuts. It's almost like film like burning or flickering or something like that. So there's some cool cinematography, a lot of good music that's just really like kind of warbled things and just made things like eerie and freaky and just like build up the mood. So I feel like they did just a really good job like presenting all that. I definitely now the more I'm thinking about it, I kind of feel like, man, I sort of want to watch it again like right away, just to really make sure I didn't miss anything or whatever, and just I think there's some cool stuff, but at the same time it is also kind of weird. Yeah, I did like it. I'm sort of on the fence with some of the detail, but for the most part I thought it was kind of cool, and it is kind of different from the first one. So even though you got some of the supernatural stuff, like I said before, you did have some of that in the first movie. Yeah, I'm down with it. And here's a part where maybe you'll hear about it, later. I did pre-order it, the Steelbook, and man, fingers crossed. It's like a Walmart exclusive. They don't have a release date, and this is where I get screwed. Like with Superman, they don't have a release date, then it gets stuck in the system, and the release date comes and it's still stuck. It's like it's not shipped because it thinks it doesn't ship for a year, and I hope they can fix this problem because I want to watch it again. So I think that oh no, there's more stuff that I guess I can talk about. So the movie had a $30 million budget. So now the question is, that's a whole different thing. Could there be a third one? I mean, obviously, if they made this one, they could make another one somehow. They could find a way. There's always a way with these. It's expected to open somewhere between 23 and 29 million. So 23 and 29 million. So let's say generous 29 million. It's a $30 million budget. So for the opening weekend, it's not super great, but it's not bad. to make the budget, then you just have to kind of make more than that, and hopefully it will get enough, from people going to see it, and maybe people will go see it like as we get closer to Halloween. So hopefully there's still some legs for this to be successful, because that would be cool. Rotten Tomatoes, I was going to skip that, but Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score is a 74%, and the popcorn meter is 86%. So it sounds like 74% of the critics gave it a favorable review, and 86% of the audience did. So I think that's pretty good. It seems like, people enjoyed that, and so something a little different, and it's just because you can't just do the same thing from the first movie. You have to change it, and it's weird what they do, but okay, let's go. Let's see what's going to happen next. But unfortunately, I don't think there's anything else that's going to happen next year, because I don't think there's much else to say without just spoiling stuff. I hope I didn't forget anything, but I think that's going to be it. So Black Phone 2, go see it. And thank you for listening. Big thanks to Andrew Loken, because he is a huge supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the Secret Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I've been on this off my mind kick, and I'm going to try to continue this again. So I've done some, what comic book world would you want to be trapped in? So, there's a lot of cool things. Grand Theft Auto is a cool world. I don't know if you'd want to be there, because it's like anything goes type of thing. So, yeah, you got to think about that. I talked about traveling, like multiverse type of thing, like some of the dangers. What else did I do recently? Superman's parents, should they be good or evil? Does that make Superman more interesting? So different things. You can, if you want to help out, and you can also purchase those episodes. If you're like, well, I don't know, I don't want to commit to a Patreon because I might forget to whatever. So you can just purchase episode by episode. If you want, like, if something sounds really cool, just another way. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to make like a fortune off them or anything like that. But if you just want to help out a little bit, it's just like, instead of buying what I was going to say, if you don't want to commit, you can also get virtual cup of coffee, which, is like $3. And, that's coffee.com/gmanfromheck. I'm changing the way I'm breaking the formula here. So coffee.com/gmanfromheck, ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. You could go there, or you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/gmanfromheck, go to the shop tab, and there's some like past, like, off my mind episodes if you just want to help out that way. And, you help out, you get something in return. You get a little podcast that you can put in your back pocket, sort of. So that is it. That's that business part. What is going to happen next week? Next week's episode is Shelby Oaks. I don't really know anything about it. I saw a trailer for this a few weeks ago, and it seems kind of freaky. I think it's like someone, like their sister disappeared, or something at this time. It looks like it could be creepy. I mean, this is a time to do these type of movies. And I like sometimes when it's like these smaller movies that you don't really know anything about it, because it's almost like they're hungrier. They got something to prove, versus when it's like a big, big production. They can rest on special effects or big actors or something like that. And, they can kind of skip on things because they can use all the glitz to get people to see the movies, versus these smaller things. Sometimes you got to be, there's more, you got to be more creative in order to hook people in. Sometimes, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. So I hope it's good. So we shall see. Then other than that, what shows? We have no shows this week. What am I going to talk about? Because Marvel Zombies over, Peacemaker's over. We have Adventure Time. Fiona and Cake, I think, starts. I think that's this week. I don't know what else I'm going to talk about. I'll have to find something about. I think Keeping Up with the Kardashians next season is coming up. I'm kidding. I am not going to cover that because I'm not caught up with it. Okay, here's the honest thing. My daughter and I sometimes watch it. We don't watch as much as we used to. She doesn't watch as much, and she's hardly ever home. But the few times we watch stuff, we'll watch, because she watched it as a kid. Not really a kid, not as a kid, no, not as a kid, but she watched it when she was younger. And now we just watch it. It's kind of like absurd in a way. And I do feel like, and I know it's all edited and all that, but I'm sure, it's not all real, but they're not, a lot of people are like, oh, they're horrible, they're this or that, but a lot of it is kind of funny. And the fact that whether it's lightly scripted or whatever, they're not always showing themselves in the best of light. And like some of the things they're saying is like, wait, really? So I like that they're leaving that there instead of trying to make everything perfect or whatever. So yeah, we're I don't know if we're going to watch that, but yeah, I don't know what else there is. I don't want to go back and like, oh, I'll go back to Wednesday, because I feel like that ship has sailed, and I'll find something to talk about, I'm sure, maybe. So we'll see. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you have a Halloween costume. I hope you know what you're going to wear. I hope you're doing fun things. I don't know if I said that. I hope you remember, be good to each other.